What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Friday show, gang. Congratulations, you made it. The work week is over. Time to talk DFS, time to talk weekend, time to talk football coming up. Big main slate on Sunday. Should be a good one. Projections, content, everything's going to be hitting the site tonight. Been holding it back a little bit this week. Trying to get everything in place. That'll be going up tonight, a little bit after this show. Going live tomorrow for a full rundown, stacks, skill players, as promised. Won't be quite as long, hopefully, the marathon. Hopefully we cut a little bit of the preamble stuff out of that show by doing the Wednesday show. We'll see how it goes. But today we're here to talk about a monster 12-game baseball slate. We got to get through it in a decent hurry, 4:05 now. So we don't have the longest time in the world to talk about this one. Got started a little bit late with getting into this, just getting everything taken care of. But good crew here so far. Harold Haas is here. TGIF, Cujo Blue, also a TGIF chiming in. Looking forward to his football Sunday. Stephen Leibowitz is here. Appreciate the correction before, Stephen. Pointed out that I had uploaded the wrong table and had yesterday's projection showing for a minute. Clint Wood's here. Anthony Taylor's here. Good to see you guys. So, pretty decent looking slate. We've got a lot of pitching to work with. Obviously, big 12 gamer. There's always going to be some options, but there's some good premium high-end options. There's a trappy Jake DeGrom against Seattle, which could still turn into a 30-point start, but probably going to be limited. He only threw 60-something pitches the last time out. But then a lot of workable options down through this range. Some mix and match quality at the bottom. An avoidable Garrett Crochet, who's probably only going to go 2 innings again. Limited bottom end, but that's to be expected. And there's a lot of power showing on the board. There's a lot of interesting spots for offense. There's some really good matchups. Twins and the Red Sox should be a pretty decent shootout. That's the second game that we're going to get to. We've got both lineups in that one. Just some really interesting games on the board. Not the biggest totals that we've seen all season, obviously, but kind of bigger in some of those spots than what we've been working with through this past week. At least we've got 2 5-run games to work with. We've got a couple others in the high 4s. We've got a respectable total for the Yankees against what looks like a really gettable pitcher. We'll see if Juan Soto's in the lineup, though. Soto, if you missed it, ran into the concrete wall and potentially went for x-rays today, potentially going to miss a few games. Reportedly, just precautionary. Seems like he's okay. Knock on wood. But we'll see what happens there. Obviously, it would be a big ding to that Yankees lineup, but they'd still be pretty playable there. There's ways to stack that team, working around Soto, depending on who you're putting together with. Interesting one lurking at the end of the night in my numbers is actually the Rockies. Despite that low total, they're showing monster power numbers against a kid who's been struggling with the home run ball. I question how viable it is as a full stack. Might be a better spot to mine some one-offs. Grab some home run upside with an individual or two. Might get thin around full stacks. It is the Rockies. That's the problem you deal with that team. But starting from the top, Orioles 4.24 implied total. Not the best, not the worst. They're going up against Brent Herter, and then it's Corbin Burns on the hill for the O's, looking pretty strong at the Tigers going up against the Tigers at a 3.35 implied total. The Mets game that I mentioned, or the next game, the Red Sox and the Twins. I don't want to know why I want to skip to that Mets game for some reason. The Twins and the Red Sox, 4.40 total for the Twins, 4.19 on the Red Sox side. It's David Festa on the mound for the Twins. He's been pretty decent in spots in terms of strikeouts, but he's also had his issues with some run totals. He's given up a mixed amount of power. Nothing crazy in the power department, really. So playable, but a lot of downside in Fenway Park going up against the Red Sox. But he's got them at a respectable total. That's one of the lower home totals we've seen outside of when they faced aces at home recently. So that's a debatable spot. We'll get into that one. Richard Fitz on the hill for the Sox looks targetable with some Twins bats. They put together an interesting version of that lineup that looks pretty playable top to bottom. They've got a lot of pieces, so they can rotate through guys. Good looking spot for offensive upside, maybe not the most favorable on the board. David Peterson on the mound for the Mets, a 3.74 implied total for Philadelphia. Looks like a pretty decent spot, maybe to consider some cheap pitching with Peterson, or some at least not top of the board pitching. The Phils always dangerous even when they're at a sub-4 total. And it's kind of the same thing for the Mets on the other side, a 3.84 implied total for that very good lineup. They've gone off a bunch of times already this week. They're still without Francisco Lindor, but it hasn't really mattered to them this week. Christopher Sanchez on the mound, though, for the Phillies. Very, very talented, very good at keeping the ball in the yard and keeping it on the ground, inducing weak contact, finds his strikeouts here and there. He's coming off a number of good strikeout games. Out of his last 5 games, he struck out either 7 or 8 in 4 of them. Pretty good. So he looks like an option, but the Mets are a reasonably high danger spot at the same time. Braves and the Marlins, one of the higher totals on the board, of 5.30 for the Braves. They're going to be facing Valente Belloso, who we've seen be a little bit vulnerable. We've also seen him have okay starts, 5 1/3 against Washington, just 3 runs the last time out, 5 1/3 of just 1-run ball against Pittsburgh, but limited for strikeouts, limited for upside, gave up a bunch of home runs so far, so it just seems like an ideal opportunity to grab some Braves. The Marlins on the other side of that one facing Charlie Morton. Charlie standing pretty tall on the pitching board against a very weak Marlins team. 3.82 implied runs for Miami does mean there's some potential for scoring, obviously. Charlie's been not peak Charlie, but overall he's been pretty good throughout the season. So I think we can reliably go there, just knowing that on the wrong day with the aging veteran, you might get a bad outing. But seems like a good DFS spot. Jake DeGrom, again, just threw 61 pitches, went 3 2/3, faced 16 hitters in his return against Seattle the last time out. Now he gets to face Seattle again in a home start. Presumably, maybe 70, 75 pitches, and you get through 4 plus. Maybe you get to 5, but would have to be really tidy, really efficient. In that game, he struck out 4, walked 0, gave up 4 hits. If you don't give up the hits, maybe there's less pressure. Maybe you can get through more innings. It's conceivable that he could go 5 and find a decent strikeout total, but I still do think on a deep pitching slate that it's probably more of a trap than anything else. DeGrom's probably going to be without much of a ceiling. Kenny Walker's status question goes from questionable to doubtful on Yahoo. It's so annoying how Yahoo has the for season long. They're so reluctant to let you use the IR spots. And then if you put a guy in, he's out 1 week, but then we know he's going to be out the next week, but he's not on actual IR. They mess with it, and you can't make pickups off waivers. It's so annoying. Anyway, DeGrom, I struggle to say that he's without ceiling because he's effectively priced this time, or at least more effectively priced, particularly over here. You could... I don't know. I don't think he's getting to 20. And I think you want 20. Even at that price. Feels kind of mandatory on such a deep slate where there's other similar kind of options with no real restriction for innings. Feels like a stretch. I believe in the medians. I think that's around where he lands. I just don't think he pitches enough to get to the upside. And then on the other side of that one is George Kirby, who's outstanding on the mound for the Mariners. He's got the Rangers checked to a 3.63 implied total. They've been scuffling all year long, so seems like a pretty targetable spot. A low 7-run total for the game overall. Diamondbacks and the Brewers pops back up to an 8.5-run total for that game. That very good Diamondbacks offense goes against a pretty targetable pitcher in Colin Ray. Ray, every now and again, can shine, can have a decent strikeout game, limit the opposing team. He had against the Braves back on August 6th. He went 7 innings, struck out 9, no runs, 5 hits. It was a very good start. Since then, he's had a 7-run game, a 4-run game, a 3-run game, a 10-run game. Hasn't exactly been great. There was a 7-inning shutout, 5 strikeouts of the Guardians in there, though. That's a very good start. Last time out, just 2 2/3. Give up 10 hits. That was in a relief appearance 4 days ago. I didn't catch that earlier. Just went 4 innings in each of his last 3 actual starts. More because he was inefficient and bad than anything else. The 2 2, so he went 2 2/3 in relief, picked up a save, 3 hits, faced 10 hitters, struck out 1, no runs, no anything. That was on the 16th. That's going to cap his depth. So even in that sense of, every now and then he has an okay start, I am going to say you're probably only getting like 4 innings here out of Colin Ray. I'm going to lower his projection, or his already low projection. I think I left him at just the 4.5 default, but maybe not. I might have put him at 5. Either way, don't play Colin Ray. It doesn't look like a good spot anyway. 4.54 implied total, 4.55 for the Diamondbacks. And on the other side of that, it's Zach Gallen going up against a pretty decent Brewers lineup. I can see either side of that one being reasonable. Gallen hasn't exactly been great this year. He's made some short starts, but he's also gotten through 6 a couple times recently with decent strikeout totals against at least 1 or 2 good offenses. So it's a believable spot on both sides. The Brewers are good enough to beat him. He's good enough to beat them. Giants and the Royals, 369 implied total for San Francisco. They're going up against Michael Wacha, who's been effective this season at worst. It's kind of similar to Lugo on that team, where you're just not wholly believable, but just a quality enough pitcher that he's always been a 3-4 kind of a starter. And he's having a serviceable year. So at price, he'll always at least be worth considering. Against the heavy strikeout Giants lineup, while he's got them way sub 4, I can see the upside. And then he's supported by a 4.91, one of the higher implied totals for his offense going up against Mason Black. So a lot of upside for the win. Angels and the Astros, Tyler Anderson going for the Angels, facing that elite Astros lineup. They're at a 4.89 implied total against him. Looks pretty juicy there. We can always get into some of those bats. We're not worried about anything in that matchup for them. And then Justin Verlander had been looking really concerning. Had an okay outing his last time out against this Angels team, so maybe picks up a little bit of additional upside again. 5 innings in that start. Gave up 2 runs, but only 4 hits. Struck out just 2, walked 2. Wasn't exactly on peak form, but it was nice to see him get through 5 without melting down. The 3 starts prior to that, he had gone 5 innings against the Phils, 4 earned runs, 4 2/3 at Cincinnati, 5 earned runs, and then faced Arizona and gave up 8 earned runs in 3 innings. So a lot of rough outings there in the return to action. He had a couple of... Actually, it was only 1 additional start. He went 5 in his first start. That was against Boston. 2 runs in that one, struck out 6 and looked okay. That's probably his best outing since coming back, was the first one. Definitely playable. He's correctly priced. Right? He just, whoops, where is he? There he is. Just kind of slides in there nicely at 79, 78. And if he finds his strikeout form, even if we're just talking about 5 innings, that's not a bad price. Even if he's just picking up 5 strikeouts. Just needs to pitch some clean, decent innings. Just demonstrated he's still capable of it. So, I don't know. It's still Justin Verlander to some degree. I'll take my shots. He's very cheap. He makes things work. It's actually sitting in my placeholder lineup right now. Cleveland Guardians against the Cards, 396 implied total for the Guards. They're facing Kyle Gibson, middle-of-the-road veteran pitcher, and then going the other way, it's Ben Lively, pushing a 4.13 implied total towards St. Louis. They'll be playable. They'll look like they've looked the last few days, where it's not all that desirable, but there's playability there. Lively at the same time, talented enough to beat them, but hasn't exactly been pitching deep into games lately, hasn't exactly found monster strikeout totals. Deep slate probably falls by the wayside. Joe Musgrove has the pathetic White Sox relegated to a 2.72 implied total, 2.73. One of the lowest marks we've seen all year as an implied total. Musgrove, very good, pitching pretty well. 6 innings, his most recent start against the Giants, a comparable opponent. And apologies to the Giants for saying that, but at least in the strikeout department, they're comparable. They're a much better team overall. 8 strikeouts in that game for Musgrove. 3 hits, no runs over 6. A bad start before that one against the same Giant squad. 7 strikeouts, but gave up 6 earned runs in 4 1/3. 2 6-inning starts prior to that one, both quality starts. 8 strikeouts in one, 3 strikeouts in another. 7-inning quality start, 1 hitter against the Mets. 9 strikeouts, no runs over 7. So there's one messy one in that stretch of 5 starts. It's not been pitching poorly. And he gets the best matchup in baseball. Probably going to be pretty popular today, but seems worth going to. Yankees with Garrett Cole on the mound. They're 3.42 implied total for the A's on the other side. It's Garrett Cole. It's Garrett Crochet on the mound for the White Sox. You're just not going there anymore. It's 4-inning cap. Just a hard cap of 4 innings regardless. So, especially against the low strikeout Padres team, I just don't see any reason to mess with it. Garrett Cole against JT Ginn. Still don't know how that's pronounced. Definitely pushing some upside toward the Yankees. We'll just see what's in the Yankees lineup, but a 4.67 implied total with some consideration, I'm sure, in Vegas to the idea that Soto wouldn't play. And the A's looking pretty low end there, but they're going to poke their heads above water a little bit for some home run upside against Cole's home run numbers. So maybe a pick off an individual home run, but it's not a really good stacking opportunity. End of the night, I mentioned before, the Rockies showing a lot of power in the home run model, so they're going to be interesting at least for scraps, at least for one-off opportunities. Michael Talia, the home run pick of the day, basically doubling up the magic number in the model. I'm always going to consider something like that, and they're stacked because they're really cheap right now in my placeholder lineup. We'll see if I stick with it. Dodgers on the other side looking pretty obvious at 5.23 implied runs. It's Kyle Freeland on the hill for the Rockies, and it's Justin Robleski on the mound for the Dodgers. So just as a sneak preview with Robleski, got through 2 innings clean in bulk relief last time out on the 7th. But the game before that against Arizona, 10 earned runs on 10 hits and 5 1/3, 2 home runs. 3 home runs allowed the game before that. 2 okay outings, and then 2 games of 2 home runs apiece back in July. So some problems at the major league level with the home run ball. We're going to get there, but it's not going to be for a while. Top of the board by projection, Garrett Cole. 10-4 on DK, 9,000 on the FanDuel slate. Tons of strikeout upside. Hasn't been at peak Garrett Cole form basically all season, but good matchup. Reasonable opportunity to find some Ks. Best name brand on the board. You know, it's at least going to be pitching in a full start. But there's a lot of options. So if you don't want to spend the money on Cole, I get it. George Kirby's a reasonable choice. Not too far off by projections, but Cole definitely stands a little bit taller than everybody else. Kirby's really good, but there are, man for man, there are good hitters in that Texas lineup. They just haven't really come together well this year. Charlie Morton at 97 on FanDuel. It's an expensive proposition, but it's a dynamite matchup against Miami. 8,500, they're doing you favors on DraftKings. That's a great little piece of value. You can use Morton as a low-cost SP1. You can use Morton as a reasonable SP2. Just depends on how you want to play him, but across the board there on DK at that price, he's great. DeGrom, I already talked about a little bit. I just question what the pitch count is going to do. 70, 75 pitches probably. Really don't think that there's a ton of ceiling beyond that, but I could see him getting to those median projections because it's Jake DeGrom. You only need a few strikeouts along the way over 4 innings to find your way there. Musgrove looks fantastic. I just worry about the popularity against the White Sox, but the price is right. There's nothing wrong with just eating good chalk with Joe Musgrove today. It's a great, great spot. I saw a funny tweet. Shohei Ohtani, as we know, by the way, the best fantasy game of all time, I'm sure, with his ridiculous output yesterday. But he had 3 home runs and 2 stolen bases in yesterday's game. And Luis Robert is the only Chicago White Sox player to have 3 home runs and 2 stolen bases in the entire second half, per the tweet that I saw. Didn't fact check it, but sounds true. I know Benintendi's hit a bunch of second half home runs, but I don't think he's stolen any bases. I don't know. Sounded true. At least it was funny to mention. Continuing down the board. So Musgrove looks great. Corbin Burns against a somewhat surging and highly competitive Tigers team in a close race. 10-2, 9,700. Going to have to be on peak form. This is the game that they're paying him to win. So it'll be a really interesting one to watch. But that Tigers team has been good. They've got a bunch of good, interesting young lefty bats in that lineup now. And Burns hasn't exactly been at total peak form throughout most of the season either. A lot like Garrett Cole. He's hit some bumpy spots. Some of his good starts have only been, that was a good start for the average pitcher, but it wasn't Corbin Burns. Last time out, he did have a good one against this same Tigers team. 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, just 2 hits, no runs. Come right back with a copy of that, and you're in business for sure. But that's no guarantee. Christopher Sanchez, I like a lot, 9,600, and most especially at 8,300 on the DraftKings slate. That's another absolute bargain. Pair Chris Sanchez with Charlie Morton. There's nothing wrong with doing that on DK, 83 and 85. 2 mid-range guys, I have no issues with that. Same thing with Justin Verlander, 79, 78, getting even cheaper. There is upside with Justin Verlander. I know he hasn't looked great, but you're telling me Justin Verlander can't go out face that Angels team that we've seen be so mediocre, such free swingers, go 5-6 innings, pick up 5-6 strikeouts along the way, find the win, find the quality start? I still believe. Numbers still look good. Or not this season, but the way he comes through the model still looks good. Michael Wacha definitely in consideration. 95 on FanDuel kind of works. I think there's a quality start lurking there. Plenty of strikeout upside. 8,200 is honestly just a misprice against this Giants team at this point. Wacha's a little better than that. He should have been higher eights. So grab the advantage. That's a nice little discount. Zach Gallen, don't fully trust. 9,400, 9,300. Not a big fan at those prices, and it is a good Brewers lineup on the other side, so I can see sidestepping the Gallen play, but he's definitely there. He's definitely playable from there, but you can see a little bit of a projection gap between those guys. Kyle Gibson against the Guardians, 83-77. Mix and match quality, not my favorite pitcher, but a solid right-handed veteran. Against a low strikeout team, he's at least priced appropriately. The Cards could win that game against Ben Lively. There's no reason to think that they couldn't. Give him a little bit of win support. So I think he's playable. He just doesn't really have much appeal. He doesn't really have a true monster ceiling. You roll this game 99 times, and Gibson's not giving you a 12 strikeout game, you know? Peterson, decent strikeout pitcher, reasonable opportunity at 84, I guess. 91 on FanDuel, a little bit of a stretch against such a good Phillies lineup. At 84, he's just borderline play on DraftKings. That's a little bit higher price than most of the people in that range of talent, that range of matchup. Festa at 78, 8,000. Again, has had some good strikeout games, but has also been a little bit rough for some earned runs along the way. I just kind of choose not to tangle with that Red Sox team, especially in a home game at Fenway. Doesn't seem like a great spot. That game does have rain in the area. Ross got it as yellow. Wind is blowing in, which does support pitching a little bit, and it's cool, and it's raining. So maybe you gain a little bit of upside there if you like to gamble on those kind of factors and say that that's going to make David Festa a lot better. I think he is a good young pitcher. It just doesn't really feel like the spot for me. Vente Belloso, I'm kind of just leaning in on Braves bats on the other side of that one. He's very cheap. He projects out okay, but you can see a monster gap of projections from Festa to that next group of pitchers. So there are very clear tiers today where you've got a few true ace caliber guys, a solid mid-range, and then a big drop-off. It's like walking out in the ocean and then just there's a 15-foot drop-off and you're in deeper water. So Belloso, there are strikeouts in that Braves lineup. Not exactly the guy to go find them, but we'll take a look at least because he is one of the higher floating guys in that after that drop-off. Lively I don't love, but he's kind of the same thing, 82-72, a little bit more expensive though. Tyler Anderson, I really don't see it against that Houston lineup. They're pretty good, but he's going to have to at least get a conversation. Garrett Crochet, not going over those scores basically. Just 4 innings. You're not going to get there. Brent Herter against the Orioles feels like a no. Colin Ray is a big no from me against that Diamondbacks team and honestly mispriced at 8,200 for that spot. Richard Fitz, I don't think we're going to at 55.71. I guess we'll at least look at the numbers because he's mid-price starter on FanDuel, but I don't think you go there. You do have the same pitching, support for weather-based pitching upside, though, with him. Freeland against the Dodgers, no. Ginn against the Yankees, pretty much no. Robleski against the Rockies, pretty much no with all that power showing. Mason Black against the Royals, big no with the highest total on the slate. So it gets awful thin, awful fast once you fall off the shelf there. Fortunately, a lot of options up here and some affordable combinations. Might be a day where it is, honestly, though, tough to reach the absolute value plays without embracing a lot of risk. Right? Because even if you're putting together like 81-78 or 78-77 and you're getting really thin and going Verlander Gibson as your pitching combo, that's still a decent chunk of change at the pitching spot across both of them. So you're not buying the best of the best as far as back combinations go unless you embrace a decent chunk of risk with one of those lower end pitchers. So it might be a day to consider that because not the path that a lot of people are going to tread. Might also be anti-optimizer to go that route today. I feel like the optimizers are going to mash together a lot of those mid-level pitchers today. So let's get into it. Good chunk of people here watching. Lone Wolf's here. Andy's here. Happy Friday to you too, buddy. Clint Wood, good to see you. Mom is here. Anthony Taylor. Think we said hi to everybody else. Hit the like button as we dive into the game by game. Hit the subscribe if you haven't before. Sometime tomorrow in the early afternoon, you'll get a notification about whatever time the football show is going to go live. No promises that it'll be early in the afternoon, but that's when you'll at least get it scheduled. Ideally, I'd love to do it around like 2 or 3 so that we can go our time that we go and still have it be reasonably early in the evening. I don't want to check out of that one and have it be like 11:30 midnight and then have the full night ahead of me of like updating the article and writing game notes and everything like I've done. So hopefully we can avoid that, but we'll see. Dodgers clinch plus in Miami equals trap, says Power. Well, the Dodgers aren't in Miami anymore, though. Power's falling for the trap. Well, the Dodgers aren't in Miami. They're at home against the Rockies. That will be the last game that we talk about. But there it is. See all the power for the Rockies. That's what's going to be dangerous. That's what's going to be. This is the siren song that's going to lead my ship of tonight's DFS lineup crashing into the Rocky Shoals. I'm telling you, it's such a mediocre team with so many strikeouts, but look what this dude's done as far as home runs so far. It's been pretty gettable. Love the right-handed power upside of the Rockies there, but here's your Dodgers. As in they partied, yeah. Oh, I get it. Flight home, partying and everything. Yeah, no, I just thought you were saying that they were still in Miami. Yeah, if you're just thinking that they partied, I can definitely see that. You often do see after big celebration nights, teams come in with a kind of a secondary lineup. A couple of the backups get in there, and a couple of the stars get a day off. I could see Shohei getting a day off after that monster, but that's also not their style. A lot of those guys are play every day kind of guys. Hold on a second. Let me yell at the dog. Joker, quit licking yourself. You just hear him in the other room, just going to town. Come here, buddy. Anyway, check out our guys over at acemind.io. Not to transition from talking about a dog licking himself to our valued optimizer and simulator sponsors. Just happened that way. acemind.io, great site. We show them a lot on the football shows. We'll be talking about them tomorrow on the football show a little bit. I'll run some sims for the main slate because we'll have everything kind of in place for that one. But great product. Low prices compared to everybody else in the industry that's offering that. I was looking at our old pals' pricing the other day, just trying to get a feel for where things were. And my God, do they want a lot of money for their product these days. Whew. Not so at AceMind. These guys are very reasonable. They're also shockingly responsive with their customer support. They've got product for all the major sports, and they're constantly developing more new stuff. Promo code rotoscouts, all in caps, gets you 20% off your first month. And keep an eye on our site as well. Okay, so diving in, Tigers and Orioles here at the top. What's the Orioles are 5 up right now for the wild card. So they've pretty much got their bid secured. But like a full weekend meltdown against this Tigers team would definitely make it more interesting. So they do have to win these games. But a 5-game lead is pretty substantial at this point. So they're probably all right here. But it's not a pushover team. It's not a team that Corbin Burns isn't going to have to be careful with. There's definitely some hitters in this Tigers lineup now. We've been talking about them for the better part of a month and a half now as an interesting upstart team. And they've got more coming. I like a lot of these young lefty bats in the Tigers lineup, but we're talking about Corbin Burns, 3.06 ERA, 3.63 xFIP. You can see the difference in him, there a little bit compared to who he used to be, and most notably here in the strikeout rate, 22.1% this year. That's down from 25.5 last year, 30.5 the year before. ERA was 3.39 last year, 3.81 xFIP, so that's kind of similar to this year's numbers. Year before, 2.94, 2.85, so he lost a full run's worth of xFIP. Year over year between those seasons. He's been good with the walks this year, 5.9% walks. They were up a little bit last year. Still throwing a lot of swinging strikes, 12.8%, 28.1% CSW. The stuff is obviously still way, way above average. That's what I mean when I say, he is Corbin Burns in there somewhere still. It's not complete loss of talent. Just a little bit of diminishment in the results. He's been good at managing power, managing premium contact, excellent at inducing weak and medium contact, which is 31.3% hard hits, 87 miles an hour of exit velo. So definitely a good playable pitcher to throw at the Tigers, and he's, it's not crazy high prices considering the name on the back of that jersey and the history that we've got with him. So he could come out and dominate this Tigers team for a big strikeout day. 26.3% strikeout rate for this projected version of the Tigers. Again, last time out, he faced them for 7 innings, struck out 7. That's a good start. 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk. Take that all day at these prices. On the other side, Brant Herter. I feel like this is the first time we've talked at all about Brant Herter. He's been pitching mostly in bulk relief. Last pitched about a week ago, 5 2/3. Faced 18 hitters against this Orioles team, struck out 8. Walked 1, got the win. I mean, that's playable. I question what it's going to look like in a full start. He made 1 full start this season on August 27th. 5 innings. He got the win. 2 earned runs on 4 hits against the Angels. He struck out 4. He walked 2. He's been effective in this multi-inning relief role. I mean, multiple outings. The last 4 outings, he's gone over 5 innings. 5 innings in that full start. 5 innings in a relief appearance against Boston. Faced 20 hitters, gave up 6 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. 5 1/3 against the Athletics, 3 strikeouts, 1 earned run on 4 hits. Got the win, and he's won 5. He's won 5 straight decisions. Clearly even has depth to the quality start opportunity. I wasn't expecting to say that this is like maybe kind of a playable value guy, but it seems like it is. I really honestly didn't give him a hard enough look. I might need to give him a little bit of a goose in the projections as well. That's right around where I was expecting. But given the depth that he's actually put up, the 5 2/3, the 5 1/3 in the last 2 bulk relief appearances, the fact that he's gone 5+ and a bunch in a row, and does clearly have some strikeout stuff, and 25% strikeout rate, 3.4% walk rate. And it's not really the same thing pitching in those multi-inning relief appearances where a lot of the times we say, 25% strikeout, but most of that came as a reliever, so you can really gas it up because you're only in there for an inning. He's pitching 5 innings. The least he pitched in an appearance this year was August 4th. He went 3 innings. 3 2/3 on August 21st. Every other appearance, at least 5. He had a 6-inning appearance in here. Has yet to give up more than 3 earned runs. He only did that once. 2 earned runs twice. Everything else is pretty clean. Strikeout high of 8, strikeout low of 3. I mean, it's not a team I love to target with the Orioles, but he's at least moderately playable on a very deep slate from the middle. Might have to give him a kick. Anyway, looking at bats, the lefties from the Tigers continue to be the really appealing piece. Parker Meadows is good off the top, 41.27, pretty cheap. 8 home runs, 9 steals, but he's creating runs at a pretty effective clip, 111 WRC plus over his 261 chances. Barreling the ball decently. He's getting on base fairly effectively via the walk. 308 on base could be better, but at least he's walking a little bit. He's getting involved. It's keeping the run creation alive. Extra base hits are coming through based on the barrels. Not necessarily the best hard hit rate in the world, but the barrels have kept them alive. So a couple contributing factors to looking decent, and a lefty with just some good raw skills up at the top. Definitely playable for a very cheap price in the outfield. Kerry Carpenter's a bat you really want. 17.5% barrels, 44.6% hard hits from the cheap outfielder. 15 home runs in 272 plate appearances, 281, 342, 570, a 289 ISO, 153 WRC plus. I said it the day he came back, you got to watch out for Kerry Carpenter, and he's had a tremendous 272 plate appearances overall. Wenzel Perez, if he's in the lineup in that spot, you can definitely go there. 9 home runs, 9 steals, just a 297 ISO, just a 94 WRC plus. I wouldn't hit him here. If he was in my lineup, he'd probably be down this direction somewhere. But he's playable. He's a mix and match quality. Riley Green is an appealing bat. It's priority 1, priority 2 in either order. 13.4% barrels, 45.1% hard hits from Green, 24 homers on the season, a 229 ISO, slashing 262, 352, 491, creating runs 38% better than average. Been the key player for this team. Torkelson, 8 home runs, up to 222, 292, 367 in a bad season, 350 lost plate appearances for him. But guy hit 30-plus home runs last year, and he's very, very cheap, 3,500, 2,800. It's just not a lot of home runs, not a lot of hard contact available against Corbin Burns most starts. Jace Young, 27-23, pretty limited 85 plate appearances from the young lefty, but definitely a player we can keep going back to at third base at those low prices. Zach McKinstry, 26-24, mix and match quality, stolen 16 bases, but a week on base, just at 80 WRC+. Sweeney's interesting. He's hit 4 home runs in his 87 chances, has a 188 ISO that was higher just 2 days ago. Still good barrel rate, 12.3, 47.4% hard hits, again, in a very, very small sample, but he's also a cheap fit at shortstop from the left side with some appreciable power upside. So don't dislike Trey Sweeney, and then Jake Rogers is just a dart throw of a catcher for a home run. He's very inconsistent. Sub Mendoza, high strikeout, sub 257 walk, sub 257, sub 260 walk, or on base rather. On the Orioles side, facing the lefty, we'll probably get Austin Slater in the leadoff role. Haven't seen this lineup yet. Nope. So we'll probably get Austin Slater up in the leadoff role. He's just mix and match quality at the absolute best. He does do better against lefties, but you can see the numbers overall pretty bad, over 202 plate appearances that mostly came against lefties. Adley Rutschman, 51-31, continuing to just kind of bounce along. 19 home runs, a 146 ISO, 106 WRC+. Apparently got plunked on the hand at one point, and that was the starting point for the dip with Adley. His price has come down a little bit since we started complaining about it about 4 or 5 days ago. We're down $500 since then, and might continue to come down. Obviously not because of what we're saying, but you know, it's has come down a little, but that's still kind of high for the output that Adley's provided compared to a lot of other high-end catchers. But you still get a great spot in the lineup, switch hitter, tons and tons of upside. Any given slate comes out today, the hand feels better, bang, you're back in business. So no issues with the player. It's just still a little bit of a talent tax. Gunnar Henderson, 64, 4,000, no problem with that. 37 homers, 20 steals, 365 on base, 255 ISO, creating runs 56% better than average, and it just is phenomenal. Santander, best season of his career, 42 homers, a 273 ISO, monster season, tons of power from the switch hitter, 56-37, not inappropriately priced at all. Emmanuel Rivera, if you get him 22-24 across sites, just mediocre. Pretty weak 282 plate appearances, 76 WRC+. Can put bat on ball, does have a 40+% hard hit rate with 5.9% barrels each of the last 2 years, but limited output. Cedric Mullins is more interesting, 47-28, stolen 30 bases, hit 17 home runs. We're not far off of a 30-for-30 season. I was saying it just the other day. Give him the extra 200 plate appearances that like Gunner's gotten, that he could have gotten in a full-time, fully healthy season. He might have gotten there. I think it would have come down more like 25-30 or 25-35. But there's an outside shot he could have gotten there, and this is not a bad season in terms of the counting stats. 101 WRC plus isn't great. It's 1% better than average, though. 173 ISO. Again, not great, but not nothing. Kobe Mayo, dead min on DraftKings at third base. Going to be interesting. 2,300 on FanDuel. Hasn't done anything in 42 plate appearances in the show, but is a high-end prospect. So if he's down there, that's appealing. Jackson Holiday, 2 spots later at 37-26 across sites. Still at the 5 home runs, the 4 stolen bases, and a very empty slash line in a growing number of plate appearances, but we know there's a ton of raw ability there. He has put good bat on ball, 8.8% barrels, 44.2% hard hits. Just hasn't found consistency, hasn't gotten his feet on the ground yet, but I'm willing to keep going back to it at low pricing. Against this pitcher, if he's down there, no issues with it. James McCann probably slides in as a catcher against the lefty too, though they might bench him after he made that mistake of not putting his foot on the plate the other day for a force out at home. Kind of a key factor. Corbin Burns, Orioles bats, Tigers bats, Brent Herter, but I do think Herter's oddly playable now that we've given him a better look. Mom is hanging out listening. Clintwood says, my Duchess was licking herself for 2 days. Just got her annual allergy shot yesterday. Pretty expensive being she's 80 pounds. Yeah, Joker's a big guy too. He's up in that range. So yeah, he's always on the higher end of any of the dose requirements or anything. It's always weird how it's like very specific through like, if your dog is 0 to 5 pounds, if your dog is 5 to 15 pounds, if your dog is 15 to 35 pounds. And then it hits a point where it's like 60 pounds and up. And it's just like, however big that guy is. I feel like that's just telling me, like, if we gave that dog any more, it would just kill him. So just give him this and hope for the best. I think Joker's under 80. He's like a upper mid-sized dog. I feel like I'm talking about a car. He's a mid-sized sedan. He's like an upper mid-sized kind of a dog. He's like a herding dog. If you're familiar with like Australian Shepherd, he's like that size. He's probably been over 80 pounds in his life. I think right now we've got him under that though. Sometimes we're not in as good shape and we enjoy our food. All right, get off our back. Twins looking pretty decent. Obviously a good ballpark for offensive upside, but potentially limited by rain and wind blowing in and cool temps in Boston tonight, apparently. So you do have those factors to consider. Richard Fitz, 2 starts in, 10 and 2/3, 9.5% strikeouts, 9.5% walks. That's not really very good. That amounts to a 5-inning game that I think that was the day of my sister's wedding. Oh, no, that was last Friday. I must have watched. I had that game on then. Did not absorb Richard Fitz at all against the Yankees in last Friday's start. He went 5 innings in that one. He struck out 2. He walked 3. 2 hits, no runs. Faced the White Sox the outing before that. 5 2/3. 2 unearned runs on 6 hits. 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. Pretty limited. Through the minors, AAA this year, he had a 22.6% strikeout, 7.5% walk over 23 starts, 116 2/3. .417 ERA with a 4.65 xFIP in that AAA sample. Seems like a limited low strikeout option. I don't really see the need to take him and throw him against the Twins, even with a little bit of support. If you wanted dirt cheap, maybe clean innings with very, very limited strikeouts, it does seem like he's capable of giving us 6, and he only costs $5,500 on FanDuel. I will say that, but it's like one of those. It's a dude from the Angels that we talked about the other day, where he had like a 6% strikeout rate, but he was excessively cheap, and he had gone multiple games of quality start depth and giving you quality starts and everything. It's kind of like that guy. I really don't see Richard Fitz coming out and striking out more than 3, maybe 4, if he goes 6. 22.7% strikeout rate for the opponents, and a lot of danger, and look at all those home run numbers. 2 guys over the magic number, with Byron Buxton up top and Royce Lewis in there. But you've also got Trevor Larnach, pretty deadly lefty for power. Matt Wallner, a definitely deadly lefty for power that honestly could be over 10 in this. Carlos Correa, with all his quality. It's a dangerous lineup. And then down lineup, you get guys like Carlos Santana, who's not a safe spot. Jose Miranda, who puts bat on ball like crazy and drives the ball like crazy. Willie Castro, who's having a good season for balls in play. Said it's not a safe lineup to do that against. I wouldn't roll those dice, I don't think. Because then you're just getting into like I'm taking the very best, most expensive guys from the Dodgers and the Yankees, and I'm putting them together just because I can. That's really not the path to success most days. Just plugging this guy in because it helps you fit those things together. I'd like to have a little bit more upside. But if your goal is just to fit the most expensive hitters together on FanDuel, Richard Fitz is your guy. 7,100 on DraftKings. I don't think he works nearly as well because he is low strikeout. And there are other options in that range. David Festa at 8,800, 28.1% Ks in the show so far over 11 outings, 55 innings. 5.07 ERA, but a nice 3.57 xFIP underneath it. I'm telling you, he's going to be good. There's a lot here to like. He's given up a 3.83 home run rate, but on manageable premium contact numbers. A couple of mistakes have traveled pretty far. That's basically what that barrel and against the home runs, despite some decent contact numbers, tells me. Walked a couple too many at 8.1, but it's manageable. Very good 12.2% swinging strike rate. It's a lot to work with. With the wind at his back, potentially impacting some of these hitters, with a targetable 26.9% opposing strikeout rate, I would definitely not cross David Festa off. 8,000 is totally reasonable. 7,800 puts him on the board easily on FanDuel. Projects out decently and does have a little bit of strikeout-based ceiling on top of this. Just needs to get through this deadly lineup clean as far as the power goes. They're loaded up with good lefties up top. They've got a lot of good righty power in their lineup now. It's a dangerous Red Sox lineup to throw David Festa against. Playable, tournament interesting even at those prices, and probably reasonably low ownership, but high danger spot. Twins bats, you get Buxton off the top at just 48.31. He's not having a bad year when he's been in the lineup. 355 plate appearances, 17 home runs, a 251 ISO, a 140 WRC+, 272, 332, 523. He was scuffling for a while when he was first back or between injuries, somewhere back in, call it June, and the numbers were ugly. And I remember specifically saying, like, Byron Buxton usually is just hurt and the numbers are good when he's in, but this year it's been bad. And he dramatically turned that around. These are good Byron Buxton numbers now. He looks basically like himself. It's just you need him on the field. Today, getting him at those prices in the leadoff spot against this pitcher, take some shots at the monster? Absolutely. 10.46 in the home run model. Larnach, 31, 3,000, 15 homers on the season in 375 plate appearances, a 187 ISO, 10.9% barrels, 45.2% hard hits. Killer lefty bat. Love the option. Correa, 9.1% barrels, 45.2% hard hits. Cost $51.33 at shortstop. That's totally reasonable for the star quality shortstop that you get. 312, 384, 521, 209 ISO, a 155 WRC plus. 13 homers in 334 plate appearances. There's not that much separating Carlos Correa's season in limited form from the other premium shortstops that are available, and he's offset by price a little bit. Matt Wallner, tremendous lefty bat. 18.8% barrels, 53.8% hard hits, 13 home runs, and a 280 ISO over his 246 plate appearances. Yes, tons of strikeouts, but he draws walks, 370 on base, a 157 WRC plus. You do not care about those 37% strikeouts. It just doesn't matter. Guy's tremendous. Royce Lewis at 49.31 has tons of power, 11.68 in the home run model. He's hit 16, but a lot of them came in a rush. It's been a little bit of a gap, but definitely projectable for power. Tons of upside for just general run creation and offense. A 246 ISO, 123 WRC plus. Fire away with Royce Lewis shares for a fair price in Fenway Park. Castro at 38.28, highly playable multi-position guy on FanDuel. 12 homers and 14 steals. A lot of runs scored, good on base and correlated scoring option at the absolute worst. Jose Miranda, 36.26, puts tons of balls in play, hits them pretty hard. Slipped under a 40% hard hit rate again, 39.3%, but against 14.7% strikeouts, 4.3% walks. He's slashing 289, 327, 449, creating runs 18% better than average. It's a very good cheap option at either corner infield spot. Carlos Santana's got a little bit more true power, 22 home runs, a 185 ISO this season. He's also fairly low strikeout, 17.3 this year, 16.8 last year, 10+% walks. Santana's an ideal cheap first baseman to stick into lineups. Christian Vasquez is just a mix and match catcher at the absolute best, 63 WRC plus, 7 home runs on the season. On the Red Sox side, you get the killer lefties off the top in Jarren Duran and Rafi Devers, 58.54 and 3,800 apiece on FanDuel. 21 homers, 32 steals for Duran, a 211 ISO, creating runs 29% better than average. Devers, 28 homers on ridiculous contact, 13.1% barrels, 52.2% hard hits. He's got a 14.3 against a righty who's been somewhat gettable for power upside. Definitely like the opportunity for Rafi Devers to go deep, even in bad hitting conditions. At a point, it just doesn't matter. Tyler O'Neill, 15 plus in the home run model. He's got 31 on the season, a 280 ISO, 17.8% barrels, cost 52.36, seems reasonable to me. And then you get a big price dip, so the premium prices on those top guys just don't matter when you're stacking. I mean, they matter. It'd be great if they were cheaper, but I mean, if you just took a top 5 here that includes Tristan Casas and Willie Abreu, their other 2 elite lefties that we like to get to, those guys are 38 and 36 apiece. That stack costs $47.60 a piece for a stack that includes Duran, Devers, and O'Neill. That's stupid. I guess David Festa? Take advantage. That's a great buy. You could throw Connor Wong in there. You could throw Trevor Story in there if you wanted to take the shortstop instead of a second outfielder. Lower the price a little bit more, or a third outfielder rather. Lower the price a little bit more. Book a cheap shortstop. There's nothing wrong with Trevor Story. 2 home runs, 5 steals in 74 plate appearances so far. Still finding his form. But there is a good ball player left in there, and he's very, very cheap. Connor Wong's just having a good season. 284, 336, 435. Still outstanding numbers for a catcher as far as the slash line goes. 113 WRC plus. Power's been kind of out this year. 13 homers and 6% barrels, 34.7% hard hits. I was hoping for more barrels along with the quality of contact and the frequency of contact he was making this year. We didn't get that result, but it's still been a very good Connor Wong season. And Manuel Valdez at the bottom of the lineup, 25-26 across sites, mix and match quality. Same thing with Ceddanne Rafaela. He's given you a little bit more in terms of the counting stats this year, but there's no real consistency there, no reliability. He's just affordable at multiple positions, one of which is second base, so you can get to him very, very easily at the bottom of lineups and in DFS stacks on either side. Twins bats, Red Sox bats. I'll go with that. I'll agree with Vegas. The Twins bats, more upside showing for power for the Red Sox, but Festa's the better of these 2 pitchers. So I'll go Twins bats, Red Sox bats, but then Festa way, way over Fitz. Fitz is only a total value-based dart throw. You're just looking for 6 innings of shutout ball and 4 strikeouts for your 55 on FanDuel, but that's not really a good FanDuel play. David Peterson faced Philly last time out. 7 2/3, 6 strikeouts, just 1 earned run, no home run allowed. Hasn't given up a homer in 3 straight. Had an 11 strikeout game against Boston 3 starts back. In between, faced Toronto, gave up 4 earned on 8 hits, just 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. That was obviously a downside start. But had been on a run, 6 1/3, 7 innings, 7 1/3, 7, 6 1/3, 6 innings, and then ran into that bad one in Toronto, but then came right back and again, 7 2/3, pitched into the 8th inning, was spectacular against Philly the last time out. 8,400, 9,100, he's honestly not priced up enough on DraftKings. 84 is still pretty low. He's found his strikeout form in recent games. The 6 is a decent total against Philly. The 11 is obviously outstanding. He had an 8 strikeout game against Baltimore back on the 19th. A couple of still low strikeout games, but the idea that he's at least able to wrangle it here and there, he wasn't really doing that earlier in the season so much, so it was limiting for him. He is a pretty decent strikeout pitcher over time. 26% last year, 27.8 the year before. So I think there's a little bit of faith there. Philly's very, very good lineup. 22.2% strikeouts is, around the average, is targetable, but it's not, it's not like a standout target. It's just okay. And there's obviously tons of power upside, several very good right-handed hitters, 2 elite lefties that you don't worry about at all, lefty-lefty against a pitcher like this. This is a big downside for Peterson. He's good at avoiding barrels, avoiding fly balls, 6.8 degree average launch, just 1.71% home runs this year. That helps his case. 2.85 ERA, but a 4.21 xFIP. 19.1% strikeouts is just okay, and it has been climbing. The swinging strikes are decent. CSW is just okay, but the walks are problematic. 9.2% walks, 1.31 whip. Again, against a good Phillies team that has a lot of guys who are very capable of drawing a walk, a lot of guys who are very capable of getting on base. It's a concerning spot, might get a little bit trappy. Christopher Sanchez on the other side might be a little bit better of a consideration. You can see the strikeout numbers are almost identical. He's very, very good at keeping the ball down. 2.1 degree average launch. Limiting impact on the home runs, But you do still have Vientos and Alonso surging above the home run, above the magic number. That's defiant of expectations against Sanchez. He's very good at limiting home runs, 1.27% this year. He's also pretty good at inducing weak and medium contact, which is kind of the difference between him and Peterson. Peterson allows a lot of quality of contact just in the ballpark, on a low to medium trajectory. Sanchez is drawing further into the ground, making you pound the ball into the ground more, and doing it with a better ability to make that weak contact. Just 5.5% barrels this year. 11.3% swinging strikes on an arsenal that Stuff Plus doesn't grade out that well. Just 5.4% walks. The 1-2-3 whip is representative of some balls that have gotten through the infield. Not really a walk issue. So Sanchez is really good, and he's been pitching to form. 7 innings in his most recent start against this same Mets team. Was that the same game? That was. These two dueled in that last game. So Peterson went 7 2/3 and had that good start. And then on the other side of the same game, Sanchez went 7 and gave up 1 earned run, 6 hits, and he also struck out 7. So just coming back and picking it right up where they left off. We'll see who ends up winning out over, presumably 14 innings apiece in the last 2 games. I could see upside for either one of these pitchers. I really could. I prefer Sanchez. 96 on FanDuel, though. Obviously, FanDuel prefers Sanchez. So you can claw back a little advantage if you pivot to the other side of the game. But obviously, you're giving up a little bit in terms of the median projection. You're going to the truly lower strikeout guy this season, but the historically higher strikeout guy. So there's a lot of back and forth between these two, but they're both firmly on the board. I do think both of the opposing offenses, though, are at least loosely clinging to playability just because of how good these teams are. It's difficult to fully suppress either of these offenses, but you can see just high 3s as far as the total. That makes them playable relative to the entire slate, but it puts them nowhere near the top of the board. Kyle Schwarber's always in the mix. He's above the magic number for home runs at 11. He's got a 370 on base to go with his ridiculous power, 35 home runs, creating runs 37% better than average. He's just outstanding. Another player about whom we just don't care about high strikeouts. 28.4 on the strikeouts this year, but 15.5% walks. Last year, 29.9 with a 17.5% walk. He is the textbook definition 3 true outcomes hitter. Would love to have him. Any day you want to make your way to the Yankees, Kyle Schwarber, we would love to have you. Don't know exactly where we'd play you. Got a pretty bulky outfield with the DH already pretty much locked in. Maybe we'd teach you how to play first base. Trey Turner, 59-36, 19 home runs, 15 steals, 342 on base, a 125 WRC+. Another just outstanding shortstop. He and Carlos Correa compare pretty favorably. And you can see the price difference with Turner slotting in $800 more expensive. Bryce Harper, 56-36, has 29 home runs, a 246 ISO, 148 WRC+, and remains tremendous. 9.72 in the home run model, even against Peterson. He's very playable. Alec Bohm, a very good right-handed bat, low strikeout at 14%, low walk, 46.4% hard hits, tons of balls in play, slashing 285, 339, 458, creating runs 19% better than average. He's terrific. He's a really good option in the cleanup role from the right side. Nicky Castellanos gives you a little bit more power, but a lot more inconsistency. 21.5% strikeouts is not bad on its own, though. Just doesn't compare favorably to 14% from Bohm. 21 home runs, though. He's hit 7 more home runs for the 7 percentage points of strikeout rate that he's traded. 166 ISO, 96 WRC+. Both of those numbers pale in comparison to Bohm, but Castellanos still playable and affordable in the outfield. JT Realmuto, always a tremendous capture option, 41.29, totally affordable. 12 home runs this year and 386 chances. Still JT Realmuto in there. 9.9% barrels, 44.5% hard hits. Just buy the quality and frequency of contact from a cheap, affordable star caliber catcher. Edmundo Sosa, mix and match. 7 home runs, 7 steals, a 111 WRC+. Weston Wilson, interesting with a little bit of frisky power. 83 plate appearances in. We're at 293, 349, 507 with a 213 ISO. 3 home runs so far. 15.4% barrels and 50% hard hits. Fits in at third base or the outfield for 4,000 on DraftKings. 4 position eligible for 26, including second base on FanDuel. Second base is really appealing for that hitter if you're stacking up Phillies. Just not a great matchup for them, but also not a scratch them off matchup. Again, it's not, it's not, I'm struggling to think of anybody who's even supremely, it's not Chris Sale as a lefty on the other side. There, I got there. So many pitchers this year have been diminished. So for both sides, the Mets are very much in play. They're still lacking Frankie Lindor at the top, but Jose Iglesias filling in admirably, at least in terms of putting the ball in play. 12.7% strikeouts, 4.4% walks. He's just reliant on BABIP to get him to first base, but he's getting there. 377 on base, 133 WRC plus over 252 of the best plate appearances he's ever provided. Starling Marte's interesting, 4,020, 907 homers, 16 steals. Just a 107 WRC plus, but that's well above average. 125 ISO is pretty lame, but he can get into a home run ball from time to time. Does have a 43.8% hard hit rate this season, which is actually better than each of the last 2 years. It's a weird year from Starling Marte. If you had given him a full season of plate appearances, though, I feel like maybe not 2020, but like 15-25 kind of a year. Somewhere in that range. Vientos, 46. The daily Mark Vientos price watch, still 4,600. Highly affordable for a guy with 25 home runs, a 251 ISO in his 420 plate appearances. 11.15 against Sanchez in the home run model today. Honestly, might be a little bit high. It's giving him credit for a lot of what he's done, but Sanchez is very, very good at limiting power. Alonso, same thing, 10.67, but a challenging pitcher to hit a home run against. These are the two right guys to do it in this lineup, though. 25 and 34 home runs so far this year apiece, and Alonso's honestly inexpensive at 5,000, 3,200 for his upside for his ceiling any given slate. Brendan Nimmo, just playable, 3,000, 21 homers, 13 steals, a mediocre ISO for him at 176, still getting on at a good clip at 338, but everything about his season is a little diminished this year. Barrels are fine at 9%. It's down just half a point from last year. Hard hits also fine at 46.9, but down slightly from last year. It's just a diminished year, but he's cheap and his prices come down with the performance. JD Martinez, 44.29, 16 homers despite outstanding contact, 15% barrels, 45.3% hard hits. It's a bit limited as far as the actual results go, but there's no real reason to think about it through that lens. That's the past, right? The more interesting thing is that it has come on such quality of contact. A couple balls drop in, a couple of a slightly better breeze or a different ballpark for a similarly struck ball, and you're looking at a guy with 22 home runs in 477 plate appearances. A much better looking slash line, a 200 plus ISO. JD Martinez is not far off the mark for being just JD Martinez on any given slate. He's just cheap, so you definitely take advantage. He's got first base eligibility on DraftKings, which is nice. Not that you're skipping Pete Alonso all that often for him, but if you had to skip Pete Alonso, at least you do have JD Martinez as a reasonable alternative, $600 cheaper. So that's not a terrible pivot if you had to make it. It would be only for price. If that bought me something significant, say on the mound, I'd be willing to do it. But ideally, you get them both. Luis Torrens, not much of a hitter at the catcher position. Harrison Bader, mix and match quality in the outfield, 12 homers, 17 steals, but inconsistent output. And then Luis Angel at the bottom, 33-23 across sites, over 19 plate appearances. We're slashing 421, 421, 895. 164% better than average creating runs, 2 home runs so far. It is Ronnie Acuna's brother for those who haven't been here the last few days. Kid is definitely talented, high-end prospect for this organization. He's probably here a year early, just getting a cup of coffee in September with the call-ups. I expect he'll break camp with the minor league teams next year and be a mid-season call-up in a true form and maybe never look back. Could be wrong, though. He might be their starting second baseman out of the gate next year. Chris Sanchez, David Peterson, Phillies bats, Mets bats. Yeah. Sanchez, Peterson, Phillies, Mets. Charlie Morton, 8,500, 9,700. Pretty differently priced across sites for his 4.01 ERA, his 3.91 xFIP. Still a good pitcher. Toward the end of the career here, he's 40-something. 24.5% strikeout rate, 9% walks. Maybe it'll just be like what's-his-face and pitch until he's like 50. 11.4% swinging. Who am I thinking of? Phillies. Meyer. Oh my God. Brain dead. Chat, just tell me so I don't have to look it up. What the fuck am I thinking of? I think for the Red Sox game, I don't think there's that much concern. Seems like it's light rain, just cool, wind blowing in kind of a thing, but I don't think we're concerned about the PPD. Jamie Moore. I thought of it before. I swear to God, I thought of it before it came up. Anyway. So Charlie at 85 is definitely playable on DraftKings. On FanDuel at 97, he is skippable. It is a very high price, and it's not entirely reliable that you're coming away with a great start. He's walking 9% this year, but an 11.4% swinging strike, 24.5% strikeout rate, but a high xFIP, mediocre CSW. Stuff plus is down a little bit. He's given up a little bit of power this year, but a good launch angle, so he keeps the ball in the yard most of the time. This is a pitcher's park that'll work on his side, and it's a terrible lineup. If I had to choose, I would say play Charlie Morton, put him in your lineups, but you get to make that choice at least 150 times, or a maximum of 150 times, so you can have a little bit. If the field gets carried away, which I feel like they will, probably an undercut could be in order. Definitely more appealing at 85 on DraftKings, though. And then Bayoso, just kind of a target. 3.70 ERA so far, but just 15.6% strikeouts, a revealing 5.46% walk rate, xFIP. I am all over the place today. I woke up thinking, like, maybe we won't do a show. I was feeling just kind of low energy, just a little, like, out of it. And clearly that was true. My brain is bouncing all around this slate. So that was an xFIP number, the 5.46. 7.6% walk rate is not actually bad, but no swinging strikes to speak of. He's given up tons of power, premium contact, fly ball trajectory at 22.8 degree average launch angle, 10% barrels, 10+%, 41.6% hard hits, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo. So we're over the threshold in all of those categories. Given up a 4.80% home run rate so far in 11 starts. Definitely targetable with Braves bats. You can see the three, somewhat reliable power bats through the middle there, showing their clear upside. Ozuna, Olsen, and Soler. Definitely some appeal there. They're all at reasonable prices in mediocre seasons for everybody not named Marcell Ozuna. There's still a ton of quality in this Braves lineup. Michael Harris from the top only costs $42,300 across sites. 15 home runs, 9 steals. The on base is really bad for a player of that nature. You'd love to get him on base, setting the table using his speed a little bit more. But the output hasn't been completely terrible. 10.1% barrels, 45.6% hard hits. The power's basically there. The ISO's not great. And it's another category where, he should, on some balls into the outfield, his speed should help him accrue some additional extra base hits. So it just speaks to a little bit of, probably some misfortune strewn throughout, and then a little bit of limitations in his ability to draw walks and reach first base. But a good player with a lot of just in any given slate upside for that price. Ozzie Albies back at second base, 46,300, 8 home runs and 8 stolen bases in a down year for Ozzie. Missed some time, 98 WRC plus. An outstanding player, one of the top second basemen in the entire sport most years. This just was a lost season for him. But at those prices, if you're stacking Braves, you can absolutely include Ozzie Albies. It would be honestly a mistake not to. Ozuna, 53.38, has 38 home runs, a 253 ISO. Matt Olson for just 52.35 has 28 home runs, a 216 ISO. Has really pulled his season together a little bit. 243, 326, 459. Got a shot to get to the 30-plus home run mark. It's not going to look completely tragic in the career history now. Definitely a downturn year for him, but not terrible. Soler, 39.32. Up to 20 home runs, but the output's been pretty mediocre this year. 199 ISO, 119 WRC plus. That's supported by a good on base. He's drawn a lot of walks this season. He's putting decent bat on ball in a vacuum. 12.5% barrels, 43.5% hard hits is great. It's reminiscent of what he did 2 years ago, but it's not as good as he was last year. Limited output for the overall season, but tremendous any given slate upside against Vayante Bayoso. Ramon Laureano hits the ball really hard. Might be kind of a sneaky option in this lineup for a little bit of upside. 9 home runs in just 271 chances. Has stolen 7 bases as well. Decent slash line, 107 WRC plus. And the contact is really what we're looking for. He strikes out a lot, but that's not going to be a problem against this pitcher. And he's got a 12.7% barrel, 42.4% hard hit. And he's always been good at barreling the ball. So for the money, for what will almost certainly be lower ownership than the players immediately above him in the lineup, I do think Ramon Laureano is at least interesting to build into some stacks if you get carried away with Brave stacks. Sean Murphy, 9.6% barrels this year, 9 home runs in 246 chances. The other numbers really not totally Murphy-like, but there's still a great catcher bat there for a very cheap price with a lot of power upside against this pitcher. I'm a buyer at 38.27 on FanDuel. I think you could play him alongside Olsen. Probably wouldn't pivot from Olsen that many times, but you could stick him into the util alongside Olsen. Urshela, RC at the bottom of the lineup, pretty skippable. RC is the more playable between the two. He's at least hit 16 home runs, but it's been a bad season for him. On the Marlins side, there's really not that much appeal. The top 4 is where you want to go, maybe down as far as Kyle Stowers. But Xavier Edwards has been really good. 30 stolen bases, a 387 on base, a 118 WRC+. He's hitting ahead of Connor Norby, getting on base that frequently and setting the table and getting into scoring position ahead of a reasonable power bat. Norby's got a 14% barrel, 8 home runs in his 149 plate appearances, a 239 ISO. He's also striking out 30.9% of the time, not really drawing a great walk rate, not really squaring the ball up in terms of hard hit rate overall so far, but a decent 149 plate appearances, a believable option in the second spot, but 46, it's getting up there. You're telling me that this player should be the same price as Vientos right now? I get that these are good numbers in the small sample, but come on. It's a much more incomplete sample. And there are bigger flaws. I'm not saying he's not good. I mean, the actual answer there is probably 46 is correct for Norby, and Vientos should just be 5,000 plus, but here we are. A player that's definitely inexpensive today, 3,500 for Jesus Sanchez against Charlie Morton here. That's not a bad option. I've been talking about Sanchez as another one of those guys that a breakout one day would not shock me at all. It's not as dramatic as what I've been saying about O'Neill Cruz all this week, which is that he's going to hit more than 30 home runs guaranteed next year. I don't believe that about Sanchez, but he's got that ability. I think there is a 30 home run hitter in there, and I'm saying that based on just these contact numbers the last 3 seasons. This year, it's resulted in 17 homers and just a 168 ISO in 498 plate appearances. Last year, 14 home runs, a 197 ISO in 402 chances. Year before, 13 in 314. Jesus Sanchez has power from the left side. It's undeniable. He's way too cheap here. It's just a bargain play if you're going to Marlins. I don't think you really consider it all that much as like a one-off. It's not really a reason to go to the Marlins. But that's a very interesting hitter within a very bad stack if you go there. Jake Berger for 48, 3,000 has 27 home runs, a 206 ISO, but managed to only create runs 2% better than average so far. Mediocre slash line, sub 300 on base, not really drawing many walks, a lot of strikeouts. He's one of their best players, but that really doesn't say much about you. Kyle Stowers, 24-22, at least can put good bat on ball from the left side. You're just buying some sneaky cheap power upside. But he really hasn't seen good results. A 131 ISO, 3 home runs, and 190 plate appearances despite that good contact. Jonah Bride, mix and match guy, 7 home runs in 232 with a 107 WRC plus on his 345 on base. Maybe interesting as a table setter, but then should be hitting, in this kind of territory. Down here, he's just kind of okay because nobody behind him is all that good. Otto Lopez, a pretty empty 402 plate appearances. Griff Conine's hit the ball fairly hard, 8.1% barrels, 45.9% hard hits, 2 home runs and 63 chances so far, but there's not much there. And then Johnny Peretta at the bottom spot hasn't really done much in 27 plate appearances. Don't know much about Johnny Peretta. I mentioned it on a football show yesterday, or the day before. If you are within the sound of my voice and are here more than once a week, I highly encourage you to create an account at Fangraphs and show them a little love. They've gone to a model where you get like 10 free articles and then you got to pay for it. But is this the guy? Who the hell is this guy? Oh, it's JHO. That's why. But the point being, they need support. They're a big organization that's got employees and actual overhead and everything, and they provide all of this data to support basically the entire industry. Everybody that you follow for baseball uses Fangraphs. I don't care what site they work for. I don't care if they're an independent analyst, expert guy who just tweets interesting factoids out. If they're me, if they're Adam, if they're whoever's doing baseball these days over at Awesemo, everybody is using Fangraphs. They need support. They're a fantastic resource. So make sure you're checking them out. Anyway, that was all stalling for time while I was trying to find Johnny Peretta, who is 28 years old, has made 27 plate appearances in the show. In the minors, 195 plate appearances this year, 4 home runs. Last year, 6 in 264. Not much of a bat there. So if you're going to Marlins again, it really is about that top 4, and maybe you can stretch to Kyle Stowers, and there's really not much else. Jesus Sanchez on his own is kind of interesting. Braves bats, Charlie, really nothing from the Marlins outside of a few darts if you want to draw down against Charlie if you're not a believer. Tremendous pitching matchup here. We've got both of these lineups in. So I've said it a few times already, but I think Jake DeGrom is probably just capped around these numbers that you're seeing right here as his ceiling. There's obviously a little of additional downside beyond that, but I don't know how much there is above this for Jake DeGrom. He threw 61 pitches in his return against this Seattle team. A lot of rematches today. 3 2/3, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts. That was fine for 61 pitches. He was on his way to a good day if he had had more depth, but he does not. I would be concerned about getting anything more than like 70, 75 pitches. I think that's the cap. That said, if you give Jake DeGrom another 15 pitches, Jake DeGrom could find another 3 strikeouts. So there is upside to those median projections. If those have appeal to you for that money, which for me they don't. 81 I think is a little bit too high on DraftKings. 88 is definitely too high on FanDuel because he's not getting us a quality start. There's just no way. Even with... I shouldn't say that. There's no way. Against this team, 75 pitches, Jake DeGrom technically could get through 6 innings. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the probability of that is minute. But he is that good. It is almost certainly not going to happen, and it is almost certainly not worth paying for. George Kirby on the other side, very worth paying for. Challenging lineup to face, even with their struggles this year. These are, man for man, this is a decent lineup. So it's not the safest spot in the world, but Kirby's outstanding. He doesn't give away free passes. He doesn't put that many guys on base to provide opportunities for opposing offenses like this. Over the course of the season, 3.62 ERA, a 3.58 xFIP. He's walked 3% of opposing hitters, 23.1% strikeout rate. He is basically the mold for this Mariners pitching staff. He's so good. 31 starts, a lot of depth in 179 innings delivered. Last time out, 7 innings against this same Texas team. This is another... Nope. DeGrom pitched on the 13th. He pitched on the 15th. One hitter. Shut him out over 7 innings. Struck out 3, walked none. Not the best strikeout game, but you'll take it because you got 7 very clean innings. 5 runs allowed to the Padres over just 5 the start before that. 2 runs over 6 to Oakland the start before that. 5 runs over 5 2/3 to the Angels the start before that one. And 3 runs over just 4 2/3 to the Giants on August 24th. Concerning stretch of starts there. That all started technically with a bad 3 2/3 back on August 13th against the Tigers. Gave up 11 runs, 6 of them earned on 12 hits in 3 2/3. Struck out 5, walked 1, gave up 3 home runs. By far his worst start of the season. He also did give up 3 home runs in that game against the Angels on the 30th, though. Some weird output for power lately. 2 home runs allowed to the Padres in that game. So again, not totally safe, especially with some of those weird little blips lately. It's pushed him up to a 3.01% home run rate, but overall you can see right in front of you, terrific at limiting premium contact, inducing weak and medium contact. It's a little bit accelerated of an exit velocity. It's a little bit high of a barrel rate. He is a medium trajectory pitcher in terms of the fly balls. So you can hit one out, but most of the time, since he's not walking anybody, since he's putting very few runners on base at all, it's going to be an empty home run. So I really don't stress that much about it. Mariners bats, really not in play. Even in this form, I have a very, very healthy respect for how good Jacob deGrom is, and they've been one of the worst teams in baseball all season long, and they strike out at nearly a 25% clip. In that most recent performance just last week, deGrom kept them off the board entirely. So really limited unless you're just talking about I want to play this stack for half of a game against the bullpen, which is not the correct approach. Robles off the top if you're going there, 37-28, getting on base at a great clip, 388 on base, 29 stolen bases, and just 261 opportunities this year. He's been a stick of dynamite for this team. He's been really, really good. He just keeps on getting hurt, keeps on coming out of ball games, keeps on being questionable for games, but anytime he's in there, you can go there. It's just not a good matchup today. Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, Randy Arozarena, three players of a lot of talent, very reasonable prices in the low to mid fours on DraftKings, low threes on FanDuel. A lot of upside on any given slate from those guys. Even in bad seasons, you get 16 homers and 22 steals out of Julio, 2020 season out of Randy, 109 and 114 WRC+. Both those guys are positive run creators this year. It's just we expected so much more. In between, the switch hitting catcher has 30 home runs, a 209 ISO, 112 WRC+. Another player who has been good this season despite the team's struggles. Behind that group, Luke Raley is really interesting at just 3,400 at first base and in the outfield, 2,900 on FanDuel. He's a priority in this lineup now, especially with him that cheap. You get him at first base because you've got the three outfielders that are high priority above him, though Robles is skippable. Raley, 21 homers, 11 steals this year, a 131 WRC+, a 223 ISO, has been really good. It's just he's going to face Jake deGrom probably 2 out of his 4 plate appearances today. And probably going to strike out both times. Justin Turner might not strike out that many times against deGrom. 352 on base, a 17.5% strikeout rate this year, drawing an 11% walk. He's probably also not going to walk against deGrom. We'll see what happens. Maybe some bat on ball, maybe a fly out or two for Justin Turner today, but not a good spot for him. And he's really not been great outside of just getting on and some correlated scoring. Jorge Polanco, a lot of swing and miss. Sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base. 85 WRC+, just 15 homers. He's been pretty mediocre this year. J.P. Crawford's been bad, 201, 306, 323, 10 points below average for run creation. And Josh Rojas is just a role player, 92 WRC+, over 458 plate appearances. On the Rangers side, Marcus Semion's a priority still if you're going there. He's up to 22 homers, 157 ISO, 97 WRC+. As we've continued to talk about all year, there's nothing wrong with anything over here as far as Marcus Semion's career track record. That's just who he is as a hitter. Just the results have been a little bit off this year. So I do think you can continue playing him. He's one of the higher end second basemen in the league, even in a down season. Josh Smith, 41, 3,000, 12 homers, 10 steals. Mix and match quality, greatly diminished from the hot start that he had this season as expected, but we were rooting against that. 20.4% strikeouts, 8.1% walks. Still his created runs, 12% better than average this year. Still playable. I don't love him at shortstop only. Would take him at third base or in the outfield on FanDuel. Langford, mix and match quality outfielder, 12 homers, 15 steals, 105 WRC+ for the rookie. Adolis Garcia, really disappointing season for him as well. 23 homers, 11 steals, and 87 WRC+. But the counting stats are there from time to time. He is making very good contact with a 12.1% barrel, 47.2% hard hits. So he's not completely dead at the plate. Nathaniel Lowe, very cheap for a player getting on at a 361 clip and creating runs 18% better than average, ahead of an effective back end that has Jonah Heim in it and his 12 home runs. Actually, I forgot Heim's having a mediocre season. Heim, 12 home runs this year, a 111 ISO. Mix and match quality, I guess. Formerly a decent power hitting catcher. Ezekiel Duran, kind of a bumpy season, so there's no Josh Young in the lineup. That's who I thought was going to be there. Look before you leap, dummy. 2,400 apiece for Duran, multi-position eligible. He's not having a good year either. 3 home runs, 1 steal, 72 WRC+. Was pretty good last year as a role player down the bottom of the lineup. Leody Taveras, 11 homers, 20 steals. Always going to be a moderately capable counting stat guy who's in the lineup basically every day at the bottom. Not the most reliable, but can fill both categories for counting stats from time to time. Jonathan Ornelas, pretty empty, 26 plate appearances so far, hitting at the bottom of the lineup. Kirby, Rangers, I guess. Mariners, I guess, and then DeGrom, but it's actually, no, it's probably not. It's probably, honestly, Kirby DeGrom and then the bats. But I just don't think DeGrom's giving you the ceiling. I really don't think he's a good play today. Neither side, the bats on either side don't look appealing at all. Man, we got a ways to go. I've been rambling. Big slate, but I feel like I'm taking my time. Both these lineups are in. That is good. We only really have to talk positives about one of these pitchers and a lot of negatives about the other one that we kind of went through already. Colin Ray, again, every now and again, you get an okay start from Colin Ray where you find some strikeouts. He's good over 6 or 7 innings, keeps the other team off the board. But those are, few and far between blips of talent where most of the time he's pretty targetable downside. All through last year, I was targeting him for home runs. Came away with a 4.45% home run rate in his 22 starts, 4.55 ERA with a 4.31 xFIP, just a 21.3% strikeout rate. Was a very average young pitcher that year. Minor improvements maybe this year. The home runs have come down slightly, but the contact is still pretty extreme. We're over the threshold there and there on a upper trajectory launch angle, 9.2% barrels. Just walking 5.9% is good, but he's got a 4.44 xFIP under a 4.14 ERA. Stuff Plus doesn't like the arsenal. Sub 10% swinging strikes. It's a very limited pitcher for your 8,200, so don't think you're going there. Gallen is the pitcher that maybe you can consider with the Brewers in town. 22.6% strikeout rate for that club. That's the confirmed version of the lineup. It is a good team. They are good at sequencing, creating runs, a lot of positive run creation marks in there. A lot of decent home run hitters with some speed, so they're multi-category guys up and down the lineup. I don't love the matchup for Gallen. At 93, 94, he rates as just playable to me. He's offset a little bit at similar pricing from the guys at the top of the board who are 4, 5, and more points ahead of him in terms of projections. But he's got a similar ceiling. If you get vintage Zach Gallen, then the ceiling is not all that dissimilar from some of those top guys. 3.61 ERA, a 3.73 xFIP this year, 10.5% swinging, 24.3% strikeouts, too many walks at 8.9%. 1.28 whip is a little too high, but he's been very good at keeping home runs off the board, despite being over the line there, at the line there. He's missed barrels. He's kept the ball mostly down, and his mistakes haven't been bad. Gallen this last time out faced the Brewers. Why are all these games rematches of just last week? Faced this Brewers team, 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, a home run, 2 walks. Mediocre start. Just 5 innings against the Rangers the start before that. Faced 19 hitters, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, no runs, 2 hits. 6 very good innings against the Giants. Struck out 8, walked 4, which isn't great, but no hits, no runs. 5 earned runs to the Dodgers, but the Dodgers score against everybody. At Fenway, he kept the Red Sox off the board, over 6. Struck out 9, but another high walk game there, 4 walks. I'm telling you, walks are a little bit of an issue, and that's in his bad games where some of the earned runs can come from. Free passes will kill you. Although, oddly, his highest walk games, it's weird. On the 20th of July, 5 innings against the Cubs. He walked 6, but no earned runs in that one. And then I just mentioned 2 games where he walked 4, no earned runs in either of them. It's like the 3 walk games that burn him. Weird. Anyway, I think he's talented enough to beat this Brewers team. Just demonstrated that over 5 innings. He didn't come away with the win in that game. And he came up an inning short of the quality start. 3 earned, 7 strikeouts in that game last week. Gave up a homer. Good, okay, not great start. Okay, not good start. But playable, 93, 94. I prefer bats on either side, though. Diamondbacks are downright appealing. Might pivot to them, honestly, from the stack that I built with, because I really like this team. Love the construction of this version of the lineup against Colin Ray. You get Corbin Carroll off the top spot, who's been white hot since basically, halfway through the season. 21 homers, 29 steals now, a 200 ISO, a 108 WRC+. He's been outstanding. He's re-earned his high salary. Ketel Marte at 6,390 has 32 home runs, a 255 ISO. Was one of the top second basemen in the league and has kind of planted his flag as the best second baseman in the league this year. 6,000 for Ketel Marte today. Nice discount on Jock at just 47, 3,000 across sites. Not only does he have 22 home runs and 425 plate appearances primarily as a platoon option, not only does he have a 241 ISO and just light tower power that we've known he's had for years, he's getting on base at a 397 clip this year. 153 WRC plus is second on this team, and that's only behind Pavin Smith's smaller sample. It's been fantastic for this team this year. Christian Walker, 55, 35, 26 homers, a 226 ISO, 125 WRC plus. Fire away with shares of the first baseman. He continues to hit the ball very, very hard. He's excellent. Lourdes Gurriel for a cheap price, capable of getting involved. He's up to 17 homers, 7 stolen bases, slashing 274, 316, 428. He's created runs 4% better than average. There's no one great thing about any of those stats for Lourdes Gurriel, but there's no bad thing in there either. Everything is at least adequate. Pavin Smith has been low strikeout, high walk. He's done that throughout his career in the minors. He's always put good bat on ball. Had a nice little surge here over 135. We're at 296, 378, 591. Monster 296 ISO that won't sustain. But he's made great contact, 13.4% barrels for a very cheap lefty bat against Colin Ray. I love that spot. Junior Suarez, 28 home runs, a 217 ISO against a guy who does nothing but give up home run power. Definitely could see some upside for a long ball from Eugenio from late in the lineup. People tend to still not really play him all that much. He's expensive. He hits 7th basically every day. But he's been one of the guys carrying this team in the second half. He's been absolutely fantastic in the second half. Could easily have popped above 10. If he was above 10 in the home run model today, I would not have questioned it at all. Bottom of the lineup, Gabriel Moreno, a playable catcher who hits the ball pretty hard, gets on base at a very good clip at 352, is a good run creator at 107. And then Geraldo Perdomo, mix and match quality shortstop who gets on it at base at a 340 clip. He's just been at league average for run creation, but he gets involved for sure, and he's not expensive at all. Interesting differentiation pieces down lineup for this team. Brewers are definitely playable. 4,200 for Bryce Durant continues to be pretty cheap for a guy with 45 stolen bases. His consistency's not great. He's just got a 91 WRC plus, a 320 on base. But the 45 steals, the correlation directly with Jackson Chourio, with one of the best catchers in the league, and William Contreras, definitely interesting up top if you're stacking Brewers, and I think you can stack Brewers against Zach Gallen. Not the best spot on the board, but they're playable. They were solidly, I think, in the middle of the slate as far as the rankings go. They land 4+ in Vegas, playable. Chourio for 43 is an absolute bargain. That is a foolish price. It's making DraftKings look stupid that he's still priced there. That's how bad that is. That's worse than the Vientos price. 200 ISO, 118 WRC plus, 21 homers, 20 stolen bases from a kid who's basically expected to be a generational talent and is putting up these numbers as a rookie. Get your act together, DraftKings. 3,500 on FanDuel is correct. Contreras for 49, cheap for a play everyday catcher with 651 plate appearances this year. He should just be 5,000 every day on virtue of playing every day and hitting third every day, and providing a 280, 363, 467 slash line and creating runs 30% better than average. He's added 22 home runs to that and a 187 ISO. He's terrific. Garrett Mitchell, 31-25 across sites. Interesting lefty bat, 7 home runs, 8 steals in a small sample of 201 plate appearances, 200 plus ISO. Willie Adames, tremendous season, 32 homers, 18 steals, 218 ISO, 120 WRC plus. Fire away with the Willie Adames shares. He's still very cheap at 46 on DraftKings. All of the Brewers are too cheap on DraftKings. This is a good discount stack. Just top 5. Just as a straight line. Give me look at the positions you're filling. You're occupying 2 of your outfield spots, fine. You're filling shortstop, catcher, and second base with quality with Willie Adames, William Contreras, and Bryce Turang as the low man on that list. If you wanted an alternative, you leave Turang out, and you just straight line it through there and include an even cheaper Rhys Hoskins. That stack fills 2 outfield spots, first base, shortstop, and catcher, and it costs, for a stack that includes Chourio and Contreras and Adames, it costs under $4,000 per player. That's stupid. Sal Frelick, playable for some hit tool and speed-based upside. Hoskins is here for power, by the way. 25 home runs, a 205 ISO out of him. He's always just been a good right-handed power bat. Gary Sanchez, speaking of good right-handed power, number 6 all-time by ISO among Yankees with more than 1,200 plate appearances as a New York Yankee. That's a pretty good list. Gary Sanchez never stopped hitting the ball hard.
Lost a couple jobs along the way, but never stopped hitting the ball hard, including this year. 10 home runs in 256, just a 175 ISO, a little bit of mixed results in terms of extra base hits, but still mashing 44% hard hits, 10.7% barrels. Last year, 15 and 44.6. Joey Ortiz, good mix and match quality player, 332 on base, creating runs 4% better than average. He's managed 10 home runs and 9 steals in 478 chances, and probably more growth to do, and will become a better player. At worst, he's playable at those prices at the bottom of the lineup. Diamondbacks bats. Brewers bats. Zach Gallen. Don't play Colin Ray. Both of these lineups are in. Mason Black, another pretty low-end option. So far this year, 18.5% strikeouts, a ridiculous 7.07 ERA. That xFIP at 5.18 doesn't look all that much more appealing. Pretty low-end option against a just very good Kansas City team that's very good at limiting strikeouts through most of their best hitters. Even in the no Vinny Pasquantino form, this team is still pretty decent and still low strikeout. They're just not as low strikeout as they are with Vinny in there. 18.9% though is pretty spectacular as a 9-man lineup. On the Giants side, there's a lot more strikeouts there, 26.8% strikeouts. Mike Wacha comes in with a 21.6% strikeout rate, but he is a veteran who is capable of spiking bigger strikeout days, getting to the 1-in-4, the 1-in-4 plus kind of strikeout rates. 3.29 ERA on the season with a 4.13 xFIP. Nothing wrong with those numbers. It's revealing that the xFIP is nearly a run higher. That's the true quality of this pitcher. But if we get that result today, 4 runs, it's not completely a wipeout because 7 runs is in play, or 7 innings is in play. A decent strikeout total is in play. I'd like 3 or fewer runs so that I can get my quality start. 95 on FanDuel, I kind of need that quality start. 8,200 on DraftKings, it's another player that's just mispriced. He's no ace, but he's, in addition to being a decent pitcher across all those categories, pretty good at inducing weak and medium contact. 32.4% hard hits, 86.9 miles an hour of exit velo this year. Last year, 35.5, 88.1. The year before, 35.4, 88.2. That is a demonstrable trait. That is not just happenstance. So very good at keeping these decent home run hitters in check. It's a good spot for Michael Wacha. It really is. Like that option. Love it on DraftKings. That should be really popular. Let me see. Should be. No guarantee that it is. Public might not be sharp enough. If he's low owned, don't tell anybody. Although do tell your friends about rotoscouts. You can share that information. Build up the audience a little bit. Get some more subscriptions in here. That's the goal. 1,000 subscriptions, 1,000 subscribers. We're probably a little behind the pace at this point. 1,000 subscribers by the new year. We got to get our act together. Even if people don't like DFS, just tell them to spend 2 seconds, jump on here, subscribe to your pal's feed, and then mute notifications. I don't care. I just need the numbers. Wacha. It's a fantastic spot on DraftKings tonight. He's nowhere near popular enough. It's very much like what I said at the beginning of the show as we sort by popularity here. If RG's got it even remotely right, nobody's paying up for bats today. The entire top of the board is just like that mid-range, just of pitchers all just snapping together. The guys in the 8s, obviously the guys in the 9s, the top pitchers on the slate. The cheapest guy up in any kind of aggressive double-digit ownership per their projections is Verlander at 7,800 on DraftKings. None of the bargain bin is at all owned. And a guy like Wacha at 82, who coasts through as a member of that club, is one of the lower owned members of that club, where quite honestly he should be one of the higher owned members of that club. It's a great spot. Giants bats against Wacha. Maybe a shot or two here or there if you grab a lot, like if you get over those field numbers and take them as a big opportunity in your SP2. or your SP1. Maybe a couple hedge positions. Some of the lefty power plus Elliot Ramos makes some sense. You get Yaz in the leadoff spot, 32-27, very cheap. He's got 17 home runs at 200 plus ISO. He's a power hitter for sure. But again, Waka demonstrably good at limiting power. Mark Canha, very good on base option in the 2 spot, 341 on base, correlated scorer. Clicks together pretty well with Conforto, with Elliot Ramos. Conforto for 3,000, also very cheap, 18 home runs and a 200 plus ISO out of him this season. Ramos leads the way at 21 home runs and a 200 ISO, 15% barrels, 47.1% hard hits. He's having a tremendous year for the young player. 482 very good plate appearances. A lot of strikeouts for all 4 of those hitters, though. Patty Bailey striking out at a 22% clip. He's got a 40.8% hard hit for a $3,100 catcher. You could do worse. 7 home runs on the year, kind of in spite of the decent hard hit rate, the decent ability to put bat on ball. Limited season for Patty Bailey. I was expecting a little bit better out of him. Interesting switch hitting catcher bat. Maybe they regret not keeping Joey Bart. Grant McRae, 25-27, mix and match quality, 5 home runs, 5 steals in 99 plate appearances, a 213 ISO, 97 plate appearances from Casey Schmidt. You've also got 5 home runs, a 204 ISO, some cheap infielders to work with, or cheap infielder, cheap outfielder to work with there. Brett Wisely's also a cheap infielder to work with, 24-22 across sites, 3 homers, 2 steals, pretty bad season. Marco Luciano, a high-end prospect for them, 21 at second base, not bad, 22 shortstop and second base on FanDuel. Marco is now just turned 23 10 days ago. Happy birthday to him. In 384 plate appearances in AAA this year, 10 homers, 4 steals, 253, 83, 80, 99 WRC+. Not the best season, but he's a fairly high walk player, gets involved, a lot of correlated scoring, a lot of run creation out of him. Hit for more power in, that's a pretty limited sample. 242 plate appearances in AA last year, 11 home runs, 223 ISO. 339 on base, 115 WRC+. And then decent power seasons in 22 and 21 at lower level minor league stops. Maybe not fully developed yet, but you're paying nothing for him at second base at the bottom of a stack that we're not going to that often, so who cares? On the Royals side, Tommy Pham. And the Royals are interesting here against this pitcher. There's going to be tons of contact available. There's plenty of home run upside available. He's given up a 5.38% home run rate on 11.7% barrels in his 28 innings, his 6 starts. So believable power showing for the believable power guys. It's another very appealing stack. Pham at 34-28, good table setter, 315 on base. Could be better, but a decent option from the top of this lineup. Finally, 9 home runs, 7 steals. Needs to get himself fully in gear. Hasn't totally gotten engaged with this season at any point. These are low-end numbers for Tommy Pham, but we know what he's capable of. 63-46 for Bobby Witt. He's expensive, but he's worth it. 32 homers, 30 steals, 267 ISO. Sal Perez, 45-32, 27 homers, a 194 ISO. Continues to be one of the best catcher bats in all of baseball. First base eligible on both sides, 45-32 across sites. Totally affordable. Michael Massey at 43-29, second baseman. Tons of good contact out of Massey, 15.5% strikeouts, 4% walks. He's hit 13 home runs, has a 188 ISO, good ability to drive the ball. More of probably an average line drives kind of a hitter in the long run, but a great spot in the lineup for a cheap second base option. I love that play. 11 plus in the home run model. Julie Gurriel for just 2,100, 2,400. 33 plate appearances. We've got the strikeouts down to manageable levels at 18.2, 15.2% walks in the tiny sample, 54.5% hard hits despite not barreling a ball yet. It's a extremely limited sample of 33 plate appearances, but this is a formerly elite hitter. He's just gotten old. I keep talking about it. It's not his fault he didn't get here until he was 30-something, 32. This is a guy with a career 282, 327, 440. Over 3,667 plate appearances in the show. He's got a career over more than 3,600 plate appearances, 11.5% strikeout rate, 6% walks. That's a ton of balls in play. He pushed walks up a little bit in the latter stages of his short career in the majors. Capable of drawing walks and staying low strikeout. Julie Gurriel has been an elite hitter in the major leagues in his career, and now he's just got kind of a casual, hey, I'm here for the rest of this season to try and help you guys compete role in this offense, where he gets in there, he hits fifth, and doesn't have a lot of expectations like he did in his end days in Houston. I love the option at cheap pricing. I really do. MJ Melendez, 28 across sites, 17 home runs, 200 ISO for MJ this year, 8.6% barrels, 45% hard hits. I harped on it a little bit. Cut basically 4 percentage points out of his strikeout rate this year. He's quietly made some good strides as a hitter. You can't really tell from the slash line, and maybe never will be able to. Can't tell from the WRC+. But there's a good left-handed bat there. I'm telling you. It's in there somewhere. 10.49 in the home run model today. Even if it's just for power, I think he's playable. Adam Frazier, Michael Garcia, Kyle Isbell, all mix and match quality at the bottom. Between the three players, Michael Garcia is always going to be the most interesting, by far the most raw skills. Limited output overall. 36 steals is nice, but nothing else about his line is. 73 WRC+. Isbell's been sort of the most consistent, but just 15% worse than average for run creation, so really not giving you a lot. Waka, Royals bats, Waka, and really nothing from the Giants, but some Giants bats as a hedge, or as just like a low-owned play. You can mix and match your way there. But the Royals bats are really appealing. Waka's really appealing. Gotta stop taking my time with these games. Jesus. Angels and the Astros. Verlander's interesting. A little bit more interesting than DeGrom, because I think there's a little bit more depth there. It's just a question of, does he have any kind of his old form? Most of the time since he's been back, the answer to that has been no. 8 earned runs in 3 innings against Arizona, 5 against Cincinnati, 4 against the Phillies, 0 strikeouts, 3 strikeouts, and 3 strikeouts. Faced this Angels team is another rematch just last week. 5 innings, which is encouraging. 2 earned runs, which is also sort of encouraging even against a bad team. Just 2 strikeouts and 2 walks, not great, but that was what qualifies now as an okay Justin Verlander outing. They got the win. He got it. Didn't get a quality start, obviously, but maybe coming back to face them again, maybe there's upside into a 6th inning. Eventually, I think, before the playoffs, they'd like to find out whether he's even capable. Might not even be on the playoff roster. Kind of fighting for his life right now. For 78-79, I can see the upside. I really could. For the year, 5.20 ERA, 5.24 xFIP, 18.7% strikeouts. He has been nowhere near good. He has been decent at limiting hard hits, limiting exit velo, but he's given up a few home runs along the way. Shaky foundation, reasonable ceiling still. Although what happens when you try and build a lot of things up and reach a very high ceiling on a shaky foundation is typically an utter collapse of the building. Tyler Anderson on the other side, 75-84, 18.8% Ks, 3.60 ERA, but a 4.82 xFIP. He's pretty vulnerable. He walks way too many hitters at 9.7%. What he is good at is inducing weak and medium. 31.9% hard hit rate, for example, 87 miles an hour of exit velo. It doesn't make him elite at limiting home runs, a 3+% home run rate, extreme fly ball pitcher. So there is downside there. He's just maybe a bid for cheap innings. But 75 doesn't feel great on DraftKings. 84 feels like a big no on FanDuel. He's going up against one of my least favorite targets in the league, a team that checks in with their confirmed lineup at a 16.8% strikeout rate for the year, with everybody at least a fair sample. So Anderson's a pretty big no. Angels against Verlander. I don't love it. They did hang 4 on him back on June 9th, but that's a different Verlander, a different Angels team. So I don't know, not the most appealing, especially if I'm fishing for upside for Verlander against their 27.7% strikeout rate. That one is goosed at the bottom by 41.5, but that's kind of offset by the 17.6 there. But then we go back to a small sample, 31, 26. Limited samples for a lot of these hitters. That does feed the upside for Justin Verlander. There's a bunch of kids. They're going to be shaking in their boots. Oh my God, that's Justin Verlander. My dad told me about him. Taylor Ward, 4,400, 3,000, 25 home runs, a 191 ISO on the season. Pretty good year out of Ward, 13.7% barrels, 43.3% hard hits. Zach Neto having a good year, 21 homers, 30 steals, 188 ISO. Has improving to do in terms of the average, the on base, the ability to draw a walk, but a good player at this point. 4,200, 3,100 is cheap at shortstop. Nolan Shanuel and Nico Cavadas, positional conflict on DraftKings. You can take whichever one's cheaper. Nico's got more power. Nolan's the better bat, the better hitter between the two. 590 plate appearances, 252, 346, 365. He's a good piece for correlated scoring. It just depends on what you think of the options that follow him in the lineup. Nico's got a 7.3% barrel rate. He's very cheap, 5.45 in the home run model. He's hit 3 in 82 plate appearances. He's also way sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base so far. Matt Thaiss, a little bit of bat on ball ability. 9% barrels, 40.4% hard hits. Last year, 10.4, 40.7. He's hit 2 home runs in 163, hovering around Mendoza, 319 on base, 82 WRC+. Eric Wagaman, a little bit of minor league power, 2 home runs on 34 plate appearances with a 265 ISO so far. Maybe we mix and match our way to some shares of him if we're choosing to stack up Angels against Justin Verlander here. He's not expensive. He fits in at third base, has outfield eligibility on FanDuel. He's playable. Not great, playable. Jordan Adams, an okay prospect. He hit a homer for us the other day. 2 stolen bases so far, but pretty empty 38 plate appearances overall, striking out at a 31.6% clip in the limited sample. He's just okay. He's a lower-end prospect for them. Gustavo Campero, 24, 2000. I know we looked him up yesterday. I want to say he was just a speed guy. And then Jack Lopez, I forget what he is, but he's at the bottom of the lineup for the 2,000, 2,100 in 41 plate appearances. Hasn't really given you anything yet. Negative 31 WRC plus is impressive. Top of the Astros. Elite and obvious 4-man stack, 5-man stack, honestly, if we want to talk about Jainer Diaz in there too. They're in their basically complete form. Jose Altuve at the top, 52, 33, 19 homers, 22 steals, 129 WRC plus, hitting ahead of a renewed Jordan Alvarez-Kyle Tucker combo. 34 homers for Alvarez, 20 homers for Tucker, 6 to 11 in steals, 388 to 396 in terms of on base, 164 and 170 for the WRC plus marks. Tucker obviously in half of a season, but glad he's back. Bregman, well, actually as a Yankee fan, I'm not really glad he's back, but as a baseball fan, I'm glad he's back. Alex Bregman, 45, 31, 604 plate appearances, 23 homers, a 182 ISO, 112 WRC plus. This season now is basically indistinguishable from his last couple of years. He just looks good. Jainer, 42, 3,000, 16 home runs this year, a 115 WRC plus, slashing 295, 321, 440. Another plays everyday catcher, 588 plate appearances out of a guy with catcher eligibility. I know it's not always a catcher, but just the catcher eligibility of it, that's dynamite. Jeremy Pena, 4,000, 2,900, 621 effective plate appearances. No star, but effective. 15 home runs, 17 steals, a 101 WRC plus. Limited ISO, but capable of driving the ball. Low strikeout, low walk, so a lot of balls in play. Caratini, I've talked about a number of times now. 6 home runs in 240 plate appearances. Very solid slash line. Knows how to get on base. 342 on base. Good run creator at 114 WRC plus. And an underrated driver of the baseball. 44.2% hard hits this year. 44.7 last year. 43.5 the year before. Another cheap option with catcher and first base eligibility across DraftKings. Same thing on FanDuel at 2,500. Jake Myers, 29-27, has 12 homers and 10 steals. Mix and match quality in the outfield. Mauricio Dubon, a little bit better than that, 265, 291, 357. I'd love to see him get on base at a better clip for a guy who puts as much bat on ball as he does. A lot of BABIP-based results there, obviously, because he doesn't draw walks. So either draw more walks or find more success putting the ball in play. But he fits in cheap at a bunch of different positions on both sides. 5 on FanDuel. Astros bats, Verlander value, Angels hedge. Really no Tyler Anderson. You could get away with the dart there a few times if you're just trying to differentiate. Anderson, not really a big player in that group of like mid-price pitchers, so maybe you could throw the dart a couple of times there, but it's a really low strikeout, really high-quality opponent, so it's not great. Guardians, Ben Lively, Cards, Kyle Gibson. Gibson, as I talked about basically all year, has never been one of my favorite pitchers. Has kind of hit the just ongoing downside where we're not really saying things like, well, if he was able to do this, he'd become a better pitcher and he'd have a breakout year. We're past that point now with this pitcher. He's just an okay, middle-of-the-road veteran pitcher. 4.11 ERA, exactly identical 411 xFIP. What could speak more to being a just solidly middle-of-the-road veteran kind of pitcher than having an identical 4+ ERA and xFIP that's in the low side of the fours? I'll go you one better. He's got an almost exactly, over the last few seasons, league average 21.3% strikeout rate. He walks too many at 9.2, so that's a negative where everything else is around the average. That becomes negative. 2.96% home runs is average. 8.6% barrels, arguably a little bit high, but not tragic. 11.7 degree average launch, average. 38.7% hard hits. 88 miles an hour of exit velo. A 1.33 whip, a 10.5%, literally the definition of an average 3-4 starter. 7,700, 8,300 against a low strikeout. Well, higher strikeout than they've been, while all of their best hitters still are a fairly low strikeout Guardians lineup that is fantastic at creating runs, one of the better hitting lineups in baseball. I have no desire to roster Kyle Gibson here. 77, kind of like Anderson, you can include him in those mix and match roles and try and differentiate by going to him where everybody else is just putting the higher end pitchers together. And it buys you a little bit of a bad upgrade. And it's going to be the same story with Ben Lively on the other side at 72. You can use him in that role, but it's a Cardinals lineup that not necessarily to tangle with them. They're fairly low strikeout themselves at 20.2%. They don't have the best lineup, but they don't have the worst lineup. There's some solid around the average run creators. They fit very well with their starting pitcher today because this is a decidedly average kind of a lineup. But average can beat you from time to time. 19% strikeouts for Lively, a 3.87 ERA with a 4.51 xFIP, just kind of falls into the middle like Kyle Gibson does, but could have a decent day. We've seen him succeed this year. Last time out, Lively faced 20 Rays hitters. He struck out just 2 of them. He walked 1 of them. He gave up hits to 4 of them, but no runs. It's a plus. Would love to have had a better strikeout game against the Rays. Was also very low strikeout, but it was only over 2 innings against the White Sox. I don't know what happened there. 2 strikeouts in 2 innings, faced 7 hitters, and then did that get rained out? Not sure. 4 earned runs to the Royals in 4 innings wasn't great, 3 strikeouts. 6 earned runs to the Pirates in 4 1/3 was even worse, 3 strikeouts. We got to go back a ways to get to the good strikeout totals. July 14th against the Rays, 7 strikeouts. Had a 6 strikeout game in July against the Phillies. 7 strikeout game against the Mets all the way back in May. It's been a minute, though. Last, month plus, we've been in the 3 to 5 range, and it's mostly 2 to 4. Limiting. Again, against a low strikeout lineup. So probably talking bats here. And Ana Martinez in the top spot for the Guardians switch hitter, 3,200, 2,600. 3 positions on FanDuel, including second base, is not bad. He's hit 3 home runs, stolen 3 bases in 150 plate appearances. He's an okay playable option, but he's not the most appealing piece. Kyle Manzardo at 2,400 on both sites at first base, definitely appealing. 133 plate appearances in. We've got 4 home runs, a 194 ISO, 111 WRC+. Kid is one of their highest end prospects and a true lefty power hitter. Very interesting option for such cheap pricing, hitting second today. I like that a lot. I just hate that he's a positional conflict with Naylor on DraftKings. Not so on FanDuel because we got the util spot, but that kind of sucks. Love to get the kid some outfield eligibility. Jose Ramirez, 62, 43, 35 homers, 39 stolen bases, a 239 ISO. Just another absolutely fantastic season. Drove in 107, scored 107. Just there's not many more complete players in the league who just do a little bit of it or a lot of everything. He is elite at everything. Always worth the money. Naylor for 46, absolutely. 31 home runs. His 46 helps explain how they land at 46 for Vientos. 220 ISO, 120 WRC+, 31 home runs out of Josh Naylor this year, striking out at just a 16.7% clip, 9.1% walks. Tremendous. Lane Thomas, 26.4% Ks, but an effective bat, 13 home runs, 32 steals. He's at league average for run creation, and we know he can be better than that. 41.33 is a decent price for that player in the outfield. Andres Jimenez at 42.31. I'm a little bit more reluctant. 301 on base, 30 steals, but a 301 on base is not great. 17% worse than average creating runs. He's just a mix and match second baseman. He's playable, but he's not great. Brennan, low end, 28-24, 8 home runs, 335 plate appearances, and 93 WRC+ low end ISO. Bo Naylor, too many strikeouts, too much inconsistency. He's a mix and match quality catcher because he has hit 12 home runs. He does have true lefty power, but very low end. Daniel Schneemann, at best mix and match, not even that really, 93 WRC+. On the card side, Mason Wynn, better real-life shortstop than a DFS play, but playable at 37.29 against Ben Lively. You're just hoping for a few hits, maybe steals a base, scores some runs, and provides correlated scoring down lineup. 14 homers, 11 steals, a 102 WRC+. You get a 107 WRC+ out of Alec Burleson. A little bit more power, but it's not really true power. He's just a middle-of-the-road power bat. 21 home runs. It's probably going to be around his peak. Goldschmidt, 21 homers, 11 steals. His power is diminished this year. Still making good contact. Leads the team in barrel rate, or with apologies to Jordan Walker in a small sample. One of the team leaders in barrel rate, 48.1% hard hits this year, 167 ISO, 100 WRC+, but a mediocre kind of lost season toward the back end of the career that's honestly going to diminish the career numbers overall slightly. Nolan Arenado, that killed Mickey Mantle later in his life. Mickey, to his dying day, lamented that his last season in baseball cost him being a 300 lifetime hitter. He finished at 298. Nolan Arenado, 39-31, 16 home runs in a diminished year for him too, 101 WRC+. We've done enough talking about it this season. He's just mediocre now, but the price is down, so he does remain playable because very, very cheap Cardinals bats. And again, against Ben Lively, there is some appeal there. Donovan, mix and match quality, 33-31 across sites, hit his 13th home run. Does a little bit of everything, but not exceptional in anything. Lars Nootbaar hits the ball very hard. He's exceptional, 9.8% barrels, 50% hard hits, 10 home runs, 7 steals in a down season. Still getting on base at a good clip, still a positive run creator. A lot to like about Lars Nootbaar for so cheap, especially on DraftKings at 32. Jordan Walker at 27-25, very cheap for a player who had as good a year as he did last year. Very cheap for a guy with an 11.4% barrel, nearly 40% hard hits this year in 142 plate appearances. He's hit 4 home runs. He's got a 163 ISO. Just leave him alone. Let him hit. Thomas Segisi and Pedro Paz mix and match options at the bottom. Not a lot of success so far this year. Guardians bats, Cardinals bats. Either pitcher is a mix and match guy at best. They're both more appealing on DraftKings. They're both at the absolute peak, borderline playable on FanDuel, with the more appealing option being Kyle Gibson, but not much appeal there on FanDuel. Don't play Garrett Crochet. You're not going to get enough innings. 4 innings tops. Enough said. On the other side, Joe Musgrove looks fantastic. Facing the worst lineup in baseball, honestly, really could get away with not having to dive into the numbers, but we will, because Musgrove overall has been good and the White Sox are completely terrible. And I'm just saying things to stall for time while I put these lineups into the machine here, into the model. So Musgrove over 87 and a third, 4.23 ERA with a 3.91 xFIP, 23.8% Ks, pretty good 6.1% walk rate, very good 12.5% swinging, and a 30.1% CSW. The biggest indicator that I have that Joe Musgrove is still Joe Musgrove is this: the 12.5% swinging, the 30.1% CSW. 23.8%, that's not a bad strikeout rate. We've seen him peak higher than that, but not by a ton. But I love that we're still getting a good strike thrower here. Even with some runs, even with some power allowed this season, I'll just take the good strike thrower, especially from a guy with a 121 rating by Stuff Plus. It's way above average. Yes, we're over the threshold for hard hits. Yes, we're over the threshold for exit velo. Yes, we're over the threshold for barrels this year. 3.59% home runs. That's appropriate for that kind of contact. It's arguably a little bit low, a little bit lucky. But Musgrove is a very, very good pitcher going up against a very, very bad White Sox lineup. 22.9% strikeout rate for the confirmed version of the White Sox. Luis Robert, if you're going to them, is your absolute top priority hitter, and he's having a bad year. 225, 278, 385 out of Lubob this year. 15 points below average for run creation. 14 home runs and 22 steals. That is not a good season for this player. We expect way more at him, and he's your top priority guy in that lineup. 8.66 in the home run model. Dom Fletcher, Nicky Lopez, a couple of contact-based hitters who have not found much success this year. 53 WRC+, 81 WRC+. I wish you luck if you put them in your lineup. Don't do it. Andrew Benintendi actually is a third man that's just like those two hitters, but he's decided to suddenly become a power hitter. 19 home runs, a 168 ISO, most of which have come in this second half. He has been putting good bat on ball lately. 37-28. I'm skeptical against Musgrove, but he would be one of the better options from the left side with, at least recently, a little bit of power boost. Andrew Vaughn, 35-28, is just cheap. He's got 19 home runs, 165 ISO. One of the more playable White Sox, but that's not really saying much. Gavin Sheets, 29-27. Again, limited. A lefty bat with a little bit of power. He's a positional conflict with Vaughn on DraftKings, so you can't even have both of them, which further diminishes an already worst stack of the day. Lennon Sosa, 28-23, has put good bat on ball with a 41.9% hard hit, but he hasn't really seen good results. Brian Ramos, I do think, is interesting. Supposed to be a decent low strikeout, low walk, put the ball in play, line drive type guy. So far, the only support for that is the 43.9% hard hits, the 6.4 low walks. 2 home runs in 78 plate appearances. Mix and match quality guy at best from the bottom of the White Sox. It's not where you want to go mining for players. Corey Lee has 10 home runs. He's not really all that playable. Also strikes out nearly 32% of the time while walking 4%. You could get the odd long ball out of him, but it's a big, big stretch. On the Padres side, Luis Arraez is up at the top. They're going up against Crochet. Arraez is great for 3-4 hits even against the lefty. No issues with going to him. And again, Crochet might be capable of shutting them down over the innings that he's going to pitch. But we're up to a 3.78 ERA this season. 34.5% strikeouts is still very good. Last time out, 1 earned run over 4 to Oakland. Struck out 4, 3 hits. Start before that, faced the Red Sox at Fenway. 4 earned runs in 2 innings, struck out 3, walk 1. Did have an 8 strikeout, 3 1/3 inning performance against the Mets. That's his best, most recent outing. If he was low enough price that day, maybe you got away with it. 7,400, you really need him to spike one of those, a throwback to the beginning of this year kind of outing in the 4 innings that you're going to get. And even then, you're blocked off to your win. It really is limited. And the Padres are very good at avoiding the strikeout. Tatis for 52, 37, 19 homers, 10 steals. A little bit of a late season surge, 208 ISO. Interesting player on any given slate. And honestly, still a little cheap on DK. Profar 4,000, 3,300, having a very good year. 142 WRC plus for him. You can plug and play some Profar for outfield shares. Not a bad price to find that player, results based. 5,000, 3,500 at third base for Manny, 29 home runs, a 206 ISO, 126 WRC plus. At the end of the year now, it does look like a Manny Machado season. Jackson Merrill, another underpriced fantastic rookie, 24 home runs, 16 steals out of him, a 130 WRC plus, a 212 ISO. I'm going to say it right now, my presumptive rookie of the year. I think he's going to win it. And I've been saying I would give it to him. Bogey, mix and match quality in the middle infield spots, 38-29, 10 homers, 12 steals. He's had a bad season, but he's always going to be playable at these prices. Donovan Solano, equally playable, 24-27. Good line drive hitter, finding good results, 286, 344, 12, 115 WRC plus. Just not a major power bat, but a guy who's always putting the ball in play, always getting involved, effective, low price with eligibility at second base on FanDuel, both corners on DraftKings. You could do worse. Cronenworth, mix and match quality. Cronenworth is worse. You could do worse, and there it is right there. He does have 16 home runs this year, a 147 ISO, 105 WRC plus. He's not bad. He's just also not good. And then Higgy, our guy, 16 home runs, a 263 ISO. If he happens to be in the lineup today, you can fire away. Oh, he is in the lineup. This is the confirmed. So you can fire away with some Higgy. 11.4% barrels against Crochet, and then whatever comes out of the White Sox bullpen, there's always going to be a little bit of home run upside. Good as he's been this year, Crochet's allowed nearly 40% hard hits, 9.6% barrels, a 3+% home run rate. He's not invulnerable to power. Musgrove, Padres, really nothing from the White Sox. 2 games to go. Yankees and the A's. A's lineup is in, Yanks lineup is not. Garrett Cole, do I need to get into all the reasons why Garrett Cole is just pretty obvious here? One of the best pitchers of his generation. Even in a diminished year, 25.7% strikeouts this year, 3.97 ERA, a 4.12 xFIP. And remember, he was working his way back from a major injury. So, you kind of forgive some of the early on struggles. Great opponent for Garrett Cole to face. Last time out, 4 1/3, gave up 7 earned runs to Boston. I like his chances to do quite a bit better. Probably more along the lines of his start against the Cubs, where he went 6, gave up 2 unearned runs, struck out 7. 1 earned run over on 4 hits over 6 to Texas at Texas. 3 earned runs over 5 against Washington. A couple of good 6-inning starts against Cleveland and Detroit. Has a 10 strikeout game in the ledger and 3 8 strikeout games and a 9 strikeout game in his limited action. He's only made 15 starts. No issues going to Garrett Cole, and honestly, That's a pretty cheap price. 9,000 on DraftKings against the A's. Get your act together, DraftKings. 10-4 on FanDuel. JT Ginn, 22.5% strikeouts with a 4.94 ERA, a 3.84 xFIP, 3.92% home run rate, but giving up a lot of hard hit exit velo, 9.9% barrels. Throwing him against this Yankees lineup feels like a pretty weak proposition. 4 guys in the lineup well above the magic number for home run upside. You've also got Jazzy in there at 8.86. You've got Austin Wells at 7.08. It's a pretty high-end Yankees lineup regardless of what configuration it's in. Unless it's got Alex Verdugo, then it's a diminished Yankees lineup. Just greatly prefer the Yanks side of this one. If you wanted to just take Garrett Cole shares and walk away from the rest of this game, though, it's not a crazy mistake. There's a lot of spots for bats. Yanks are no guarantee, even against this pitcher, and a lot of it's going to come down to whether or not Juan Soto's in the lineup. Again, Soto banged up his knee yesterday running into a wall. He's going to be fine, supposedly, but they were sending him for precautionary x-rays. We'll see if he's in the lineup today. If he is, he's fantastic. He's expensive, and he's worth it. He and Judge are the best pairing in baseball. Gleyber Torres off the top, 326 on base for Gleyber now. He's been doing his job up ahead of these 2 hitters. Definitely interesting for a cheap option at second base. Helps the stack become a little bit more playable because of all these outfielders. You need a little bit of diversity. Jazz Chisholm's good for that as well. Slotting in at 3rd on DraftKings, 2nd and 3rd on FanDuel. 13 home runs from the rookie catcher, 4,500, 3,100 across sites, 114 WRC plus. Good lefty bat, hitting cleanup regularly against righties. Austin Wells is really, really interesting. 9.1% barrels, nearly 40% hard hits, draws a double-digit walk rate, 332 on base, creating runs 14% better than average. He's been fantastic. Deserves more Rookie of the Year buzz. Stanton at just 4,700 is silly. 25 home runs, a 238 ISO, 113 WRC plus. He's not playing every day, but he's playing more often than not, and he's going to be a regular going down the stretch here. They're just trying to work with days off to keep him healthy and keep him on the field. But when he's out there, makes contact like very few others. 20.3% barrels, 54.4% hard hits. Jazz Chisholm, nearly 10% barrels, 40+% hard hits, 23 homers, 37 steals, 179 ISOs, just fine. 110 WRC plus, just fine. Totally playable option. Justin Dominguez, 3,400, 2,700 for the switch-hitting youngster. He's got 3 stolen bases. He's got a home run in his 36 plate appearances. We all saw what he can do in a rush last year. Tremendous talent. Very cheap in the outfield on both sides. Anthony Rizzo, mix-and-match first baseman, 32, 28, 8 home runs. A lot of limited output out of Rizzo. I'm still a buyer with the price down so low, but it's getting hard to have faith. Anthony Volpe, just a mix-and-match quality shortstop at the best. 11 home runs, 26 steals. If you're going to A's bats against Cole, you could pick off a little bit of power upside for sure. Like I said, it probably just becomes a Brent Rooker home run, 2-run shot, 3-run shot. More likely than not, though, it's going to be on the weaker end of that, be a solo homer or, a 2-run shot. Because Cole, overall, still good at keeping guys off base or punching his way out of trouble when guys are on base. It's been a little bit more vulnerable this year to that. But he's also got a 3.25% home run rate so far this year in a limited sample. 2.44 last year, 4.16 2 years ago. So the homers come and go against Garrett Cole, but it is a flaw of his that he does a lot of the time give up one long ball. Lawrence Butler's interesting at a cheap price off the top, 22 homers, 15 steals, 137 WRC plus with a 245 ISO. Rooker is having an absolutely fantastic year, slashing 304, 376, 584. The 304 is just insane for this hitter. If you told me at the beginning of last year when I was bashing Brent Rooker and talking about how bad he was, because he was, that he was going to make these improvements that he's made this year, that he's going to cut, 4 and change points off, 4.5 points off of his strikeout rate, and mostly that he was going to be a 300 hitter, I would have laughed in your face. I did not think it was possible for Brent Rooker to make these strides. He's become one of my favorite players in the league in a very quick hurry this year for fantasy. Traded for him early in the dynasty season. Very happy I did. He's a big part of why the team's been so good. 38 homers, 11 steals, a 280 ISO, a 172 WRC plus. He's tremendous any given slate. Facing Garrett Cole, a little bit more limited. 36-29 for JJ Bleday, who's got 20 left-handed home runs, 205 ISO, pretty good lefty power bat. I mean, a decent lefty power bat. Pretty good as a stretch. 20 and 608 opportunities is just okay. But he's very cheap for the upside. 44.28 for Shea Langoliers with all his power at the catcher spot. 10 plus on the home run model. 13.1% barrels. 43% hard hits. 28 homers on the season. I knew that sounded low. 227 ISO. He's really just a power bat at the catcher spot. Not a very consistent hitter. 106 WRC plus though. 281 on base. Seth Brown at 29-26, a good lefty bat to throw at Garrett Cole if you're determined to beat him with A's stacks. 14 home runs in 372 plate appearances, 157 ISO, 99 WRC plus, has a 25 home run season just 2 years ago. Zach Geloff at 35-27, up to 17 homers and 23 steals, is a playable piece at worst. 88 WRC plus, not much consistency, but spikes of any given slate upside at second base for cheap pricing. Tyler Soderstrom, a high-end prospect for them, comes in with a 13.9% barrel, 49.6% hard hits, 8 home runs over 181 plate appearances, 186 ISO. Another capable lefty bat to throw at Garrett Cole. Jake Wilson, mix and match quality so far, 231, 292, 323. He's just cheap. And Max Schumann, over 441 plate appearances, has an 85 WRC plus. He's also just cheap. Garrett Cole, Yankees bats. A's hedge against Cole, I guess, but that's pretty limited and really no JT Ginn from me. Thankfully, we're at the last game up because I can feel my voice just starting to fade here. Apologies for just kind of ignoring chat and just trying to get through this. We're coming up on 6:20 on our last game on a 12-game slate. We started late. We're going to end late, but that's okay. Bunch of people still hanging out. Hit the like button if you can. Power saying Waka was in his lineup builds last night at 10 p.m. He was all over that play. I like that play. I appreciate you right back, Monty. Let me see if we got these lineups. The Rocks are going to be interesting. Given that power, again, as I've said through the show and as I've said about this team a lot this season, I feel like in a lot of cases the power upside that they show ends up being a little trappy, ends up being like a siren song, and you're better off just taking a couple of one-offs if you're determined to grab one of them. Like Michael Talia is today's home run pick is definitely interesting. He's in the 6th spot in the lineup, so I had him earlier up here, but he's still double the home run mark. We now have 6 guys in this lineup above the home run mark because Sammy Hilliard joined the lineup. That's appealing. You can play basically any one of these Rockies hitters against Justin Wrobleski, or you can have a little bit of faith and start getting into some stacks. You can see the power for yourselves. Wrobleski in his 6 starts and 32 1/3 in the show is giving up a 6.43% home run rate, 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo on a 22-degree average launch, 12.6% barrels. It's a very small sample. Nobody's saying it's not. Did not give up a home run in his 2-inning relief appearance most recently. The outing before that was a 5 1/3 inning start against Arizona. He gave up 10 earned on 10 hits, 2 home runs allowed, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Faced the Cardinals, 5 innings, 4 earned runs on 3 home runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. A 5 2/3 inning start against Houston. He went clean, didn't give up any home runs, but allowed 2 earned. 4 1/3 against Boston, no earned runs. That was his best outing. 5 strikeouts, no homer. And then in the first 2 starts on the 13th and the 7th of July against Detroit and Milwaukee, 2 home runs apiece, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks in both games. He's a target for home run bats. And if there's one thing these Rockies can do, it's hit some home runs. Just to put a point on it, in an additional 5 starts, 26 innings in AAA this year, Wrobleski gave up 4 homers to 120 hitters. It was a 1.38 home run per 9. He was actually effective in AA, just a .4 home run per 9 in 13 starts, 67 2/3. Allowed 3 home runs to 269 hitters. But bear in mind, this is 23-year-old pitcher, 24-year-old pitcher now, pitching in AA. You would expect him to limit AA hitters to about that kind of number. I think he's highly targetable. Kyle Freeland on the other side, kind of obviously targetable with Dodgers bats, right? 4.89 ERA, 4.31 xFIP, a 17.9% strikeout rate, 5.7% walk. If you have appeal in those things, then go for it. Good luck. 5,700 is uniquely cheap on DraftKings, but he's given up a 9.2% barrel. He's over the threshold for hard hits. Exit velo. He's honestly lucky to be below 4% home runs. Not a good pitcher. Dodgers are very expensive. They're also well worth it. Baseball's first 51-51 player, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, ridiculous. 172 WRC plus, a 336 ISO. So in last night's game alone, with his insane 6 for 6, 3 home runs, 2 steals, 4 extra base hits performance, Ohtani gained a 0.7 FWAR, and Verdugo from the Yankees has a 0.6 FWAR for his entire season. That's not good. Starting on the Rockies side, though, Charlie Blackmon at the top, finishing up the career probably 317 on base and 83 WRC plus, 9 homers, 6 steals. Mix and match quality, still low strikeout, can draw a walk, get on base, get involved, but we're pretty much at the end of the line with Charlie. Tovar having a good year, 5,400, 3,200, 25 home runs. The on base needs to come up. That'll drive the WRC plus up, but the 201 ISO is nice. The 25 homers are nice. If he's getting on more, he'll steal more. Brenton Doyle, a great multi-category contributor this year, 22 homers, 29 steals. He's also slipped below average for run creation. This is why it's like, is this really a good stack with everybody except for Sammy Hilliard, below average for run creation? Really is just kind of a home run opportunity, but home runs do feed upside, right? And if a couple guys get on base, then the home run comes, so on and so forth, keep piling on. And the fact that it's many guys in the lineup with good home run marks, not just like, all right, these 3, but nobody else. It helps me get there. Ryan McMahon, even lefty-lefty, no issues with it, especially against a lefty like this, and he's had success throughout his career against lefties. Diminished for power typically, but he still hits against lefties, and this year most notably he's hitting pretty well against lefties. 19 home runs, 246, 333, 400, looks a lot like Ryan McMahon out there. Brendan Rodgers hits the ball pretty hard from the right side for a cheap second baseman. It's resulted in 13 homers, just a 140 ISO, just an 88 WRC plus. He's only okay, but he does hit the ball hard. So you could do worse for your money at second base. He's one of the lower end Rockies, though. 8.38 in the home run model. He's more just a cheap piece if you need to fill second base. Talia, again, the home run pick of the day. He's hit 24 in 419 plate appearances with a 246 ISO, 16.8% barrels, and 49.2% hard hits for the switch hitter. Tremendous opportunity to go deep today. Sam Hilliard, 37-28 as a 10-plus in the home run model. He's hit 8 in 127 plate appearances, a 268 ISO. He's been a player who's put bat on ball effectively in limited roles in the past for us, too. Last year in 78 plate appearances, a 194 ISO, 3 home runs and 4 steals. So mix and match quality at worst from a player we've seen it from before in limited doses. Hunter Goodman, still catcher eligible on both sites, outfield eligible on FanDuel. Same eligibility across both sites. 3,500, 2,800. He's hit 13 home runs in 210 plate appearances, 13.6% barrel, 239 ISO. He's really just a power bat. He doesn't really draw any walks or anything. So you're all or nothing power, but he does have right-handed power against this pitcher. Goodman's really interesting at later stages of the lineup. And then Jordan Beck for 3,000, 2,600. Another hitter who's not uninteresting down there. 7 in the home run model, 3 on the season in 174 opportunities, 7 stolen bases, and decent prospect pedigree from the right-hander. Dodgers. If you're going to the Dodgers, play Shohei Ohtani. You're welcome. Mookie Betts. Play Mookie Betts. You're welcome for that one, too. Breaking real ground here. Teoscar Hernandez is pretty cheap for just 4,900. 3,600 on FanDuel is the more correct price. He's hit 29 home runs. He's stolen 11 bags. 220 ISO, 129 WRC plus. It's been a terrific season. He's making elite level contact. Below 5,000 on DraftKings. Below 5,000 for Freddie Freeman. Below 5,000 for Will Smith. Honestly, if you told me I went to the Dodgers and I just took a 3-man from those guys, no issues for 4,800 apiece. No issues with that as a 3-man stack. 10 plus, 7.4, and 7.6 in the home run model. All elite hitters to some degree or other. Everybody at or above a 10% barrel rate with a little bit of rounding up for Freddie. 40+% hard hits from everybody. Everybody way above average for run creation. It's better as a full 5-man, but it's more expensive that way. But that does help bring the average down, including Mookie and Shohei, to 55 apiece. That's still very expensive, but it's closer to like how this stack was priced as a full 5-man earlier in the year. You've got Max Muncy also lurking down here at just 4,000, which is silly. Muncy in 263 plate appearances has 15 home runs and a 276 ISO this year. He's getting on base at a 357 clip. He's an elite 3 true outcomes hitter. Max Muncy and Kyle Schwarber are essentially the same guy. Last year, Muncy hit 36 home runs, got on at a 333 clip. Year before, 21 homers in a down season. Fantastic option at 4,000. Given his ability to get on base, I don't even mind Max Muncy as a wraparound play with the potential to clear the bases one time and then wrap around 3 more times to the back to the top of the lineup. So if you wanted to look at it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Ohtani, Mookie, Skip Teoscar, Freddie, Will, and Max. Now I filled 2 outfield spots. Got Freddie at first, Smith at catcher, and I dropped Max Muncy cheap into third base, and I'm down to 53.80 a piece. So it saves like $100 a bet versus, or more like 200 against that other stack. Still very expensive, but look who you're getting. So the Dodgers are actually stackable with help from those cheap prices. If you went Andy Pajas in there, obviously it would lower the average price a lot more. He's hit 10 home runs, a 142 ISO, 96 WRC+, plus, still a 10.1% barrel, 40.1% hard hits. Not a completely uninteresting right-handed bat against Kyle Freeland. Miguel Rojas, mix and match quality, 296, 341, 429, having a good year for run creation, table setter at worst. And then Enrique Hernandez went deep for his 10th home run the other day. Still a very limited year overall, but at least he's got a 40.9% hard hit now. He's above the Mendoza line, 217, 270, 353. Little bit of life. Cheap. 5 position eligible on FanDuel. Second base eligible on DK. Not bad. This goes Dodgers bats over the Rockies bats, but the Rockies bats have a little bit of bent appeal, at least for people who look at our numbers. Hopefully it comes through. One last look at the pitching board, guys. I'm not going to take the time. It's 6:30 now. I'm not going to take the time to talk it through too much. I'm going to just tier it again, right? That's your top tier. Very, very good top tier. This is your middle tier. It's a short but highly effective and fairly priced middle tier. Almost exclusively, per the RG ownership, everyone on DraftKings is rostering pitchers from there to there, and none of these guys. Based on the numbers, based on everything we've looked at and talked about during the show, and based on the obvious projection break there, it's clear that that's the right approach. These are the good pitchers. These are the bad pitchers. But that means that nobody has the ability to pay up for a massive number of elite bats unless they're getting very different and rostering one of these guys. Among these lower end guys, I think Ben Lively at 72 is interesting. Belloso against Atlanta is at least a dart throw from the bargain bin. It's not a good one, but there are a lot of strikeouts there. His problem is he's probably going to give up 3 home runs to that team. Herter, if you remember, we discovered might have some loose playability at 7,600. I don't love it, but it might be there. Everybody else down here gets even shakier. A couple of darts for any one of those guys, though, differentiates the bats you can buy, completely differentiates the lineup, gains you leverage against the entire slate, who, again, everybody's just building with these guys. So it does pay to at least consider some shares of some of the guys down there, but nobody's really good from down there. I think loosely Colin Ray would be on that list, but I expect Arizona to destroy Colin Ray. But he is among the more talented guys down there. Last look home run board, then I got to get the projections updated on the site, and then I'm going to dive right back into football. If you weren't here at the beginning of the show, football, all data and content will be up on the site tonight. Football show will be tomorrow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you find out when, or I'll just let you know in Discord or via Twitter. There's your home run board again. A lot of Rockies, a lot of Yankees, some Dodgers, some Braves shining through. A couple of Red Sox definitely shining through. A lot of double-digit home run marks today. Clears the bottom of the board. One guy doubling up the magic number. I made him the home run pick of the day. That's Michael Talia at a 20. I will say my goodbyes. I will wish you guys good luck out there. I will tell somebody to go win something. Down toward the end of the baseball season, gang, running out of chances. Somebody go win something. Something big. Let's take something down tonight. Going into football weekend. Back tomorrow for a football show. Eyes on the site for football content. Update coming momentarily for baseball for tonight. Good luck tonight. Go win something. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and thank you. I always leave thank you out of that. Thank you, guys. Sincerely. Thank you. Hit the like button if you get a chance. You guys rock. See you.